is not to assess fines against individual employees?
That's correct.
So is it also fair to say then that even if you found that there had been some concerning conduct by an employee, you wouldn't have fined that employee, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Redirect.
But would you have said in your report that a specific employee failed to do something if that's what you determined?
In most cases, no.
Now, did Rust afford, in this case, the armor with sufficient time to thoroughly inventory the ammunition?
Objection.
So I'm going to ask you with respect to the Bureau's finding. Did the Bureau, the OSHB Bureau, find that Rust failed to afford the armor with time to thoroughly inventory the ammunition?
I don't know if I recall that specifically. What I do recall is that our investigation determined that, from my recollection, more in general, that sufficient time for armor.
Would it refresh your memory to look at the report?
Yes.
Page 7. Said he didn't remember.
I'm going to object to that.
The witness said he didn't remember. I'm going to refresh his memory. He said it would help him. Do you remember the exact wording of the specific finding in the report pertaining to affording the armor time on inventory of ammunition?
No.
Would it refresh your memory to look at the report?
Yes.
Okay, page 7. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Did OSHB find that Rust failed to afford the armor time to thoroughly inventory the ammunition?
Yes.
Did Rust find that, did OSHB find that Rust did not provide the armor with the authority to determine if additional training was required in violation of Rust safety procedures.
I recall that the investigation found that sufficient time wasn't provided by Rust.
It was not provided, is that what you said?
Sufficient time was not provided by Rust.
Okay. So, and were there also findings by OSHB that despite efforts by employees that Rust ignored some of the safety concerns?
Objection.
What was your understanding of the Rust findings with respect to whether safety concerns were that were brought to Rust's attention were addressed correctly?
Right. Our investigation found that Rust failed to adequately review safety oversights on the set and so that they could take necessary action to prevent recurrence.
So when you were asked on cross about a statement you gave in some pretrial interview about Ms. Gutierrez contributing to a breakdown on the set, why is it that you believe that's possible?
Well, what we would look for in an investigation is whether acts on the part of employees are preventable on the part of an employer. That's part of a determination of what we call the employer knowledge aspect of a violation. So that's why we would look at that type of information.
Okay, and in this case, did you determine whether the breakdowns from Gutierrez were due to any act of the employer?
Yes, we determined that those breakdowns were caused by failures of the employer to adequately oversee safety.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, sir, you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next witness.
May we approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'll get our next witness.
Okay.
Standing for the judge, raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat. Talk into the microphone.
Good morning, sir. Can you please state your name again for the jury?
Scott Elliott.
Mr. Elliott, what do you do for a living currently?
I'm currently a private investigator.
And Mr. Elliott, prior to becoming a private investigator, did you have a career in law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury what your career was in law enforcement, how many years?
Military and civilian, or just?
Let's start with civilian and we'll work back.
Okay. I was hired by the Albuquerque Police Department, and I attended the academy starting in February of 1993. I retired in 2011. During that time period, I started out field services, normal uniform patrol. I went to the gang unit. Then I became a violent crimes detective in about 1995-96. And in 1998, I became a homicide detective. And I was a homicide detective when I retired in 2011.
So, sir, you spent approximately, sounds like 13 years in homicide division?
Part of that was interrupted by post 9/11 deployment, but yes.
Like post 9/11, did you deploy overseas?
I did.
And was that part of your, we'll get into your military, part of your military duties?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Sir, how many, as part of your homicide portion of your APD employment, approximately how many investigations do you think you worked on in homicide?
As a case agent, 35 or 40, assisting on homicides, 150, 200.
And this is just homicides. You probably had 150, 200. In terms of violent crime or other types of narcotics or any types of, how many investigations do you think you've handled in the course of your police career? Do you even have an estimate?
I don't think so. I became a detective in 1995. Hundreds of cases a year. And then by the time I was in violent crimes, it was slightly reduced, but that was all violent crime short of homicide. So lots of those.
And you also talked about your military service. Can you tell the jury briefly about whether you had law enforcement type experience with the military?
Yes, I was commissioned in 1981 in the infantry. I spent approximately 10 years on active duty, various duties with part of the active duty time, and then I left the service in active duty in 1992 and 1993, started with the police department. Then I transferred into the reserves. In Albuquerque, there was not an infantry unit anywhere nearby, so I was an engineer officer for a little while, and then I became a secondary specialty of military policeman. And I worked in those functions until I transferred from the Army in 2003 to the Air Force. When I transferred to the Air Force, I took command of what's called a heavy weapons squadron, which was a security forces unit, which is Air Force police. The difference with that unit is that they had weapon systems that are normally found in the Army. Mortars, snipers, grenade launchers, things like that. So my prior Army career folded right into that unit and its mission.
So, sir, you've conducted investigations both civilian and military environments. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and Your Honor, at this time I tender Mr. Elliott as an expert in quality of investigations, law enforcement investigations.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the first thing you said, Mr. Johnson.
Oh, sure, the quality of law enforcement investigations.
No objection.
All right, he's an expert as described.
Mr. Elliott, can you tell the jury specifically what did you do in this particular case? Just an overview scope.
Well, I reviewed all the discovery, all the reports, videos, any documentation, any evidence. That included going in physically looking at the evidence in this case. In addition to that, I interviewed the majority of the state's witnesses in what's called pretrial interviews. I think the only ones I didn't interview were the FBI employees.
Do you recall ballpark how many interviews you conducted in this case, just an approximate?
35, 40 maybe.
And in terms of the reports, did you review voluminous reports in this case as well?
Yes, I did.
And have you, as an expert, also made some conclusions based on your review of the materials, your interviews, and what you've seen in this case?
I did.
Okay. I don't want to hit every point that you might make, but I want to hit some of the major ones. First of all, at the scene, at the initial scene when law enforcement responds, can you tell the jury, do you have any conclusions about the quality of the investigation by the sheriffs at the scene?
Yeah, some of that was reached by my own observations and some of it through interviews of the deputies on the scene. I felt like their response was probably not what it should be. There were hundreds of people on that ranch, but if you narrow it down to who was in the church at the time of the shooting and who may have had involvement with the case, for example, the people that were just outside, there was really about 20 people. The first responding deputies, their job is first preservation of life, and then it is preservation of evidence and identifying witnesses and possible suspects. In this case, it was known very quickly who the shooter was, but it wasn't known who the witnesses were. And those witnesses, once they were identified, they should have been segregated so they couldn't talk among themselves.
Now let me stop you right there. When you initially, as a law enforcement homicide detective or somebody going on scene, you identify the shooter, what in your opinion is one of the first things that you should do?
Well, the first thing you do is put someone with that individual, segregate them from everyone else. You also want to, those individuals, since you are preserving evidence, you also want to secure their cell phones.
Now in this case, in the materials you reviewed, did it appear to you that Mr. Baldwin was segregated?
Not at all.
And along with the conclusion you just stated, did it appear that his cell phone was taken from him?
No, it was not.
Mr. Elliott, did it appear to you that at any time at the scene that day, Mr. Baldwin was segregated?
He was not.
Okay. Next, you talked about identifying key witnesses and preserving evidence. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes. Well, the scene was secured. You don't often have a scene of that small of an environment. It was known immediately that the shooting occurred inside that church structure, and that it probably involved a couple of people just outside near that weapons cart. So that was the immediate concern, that area there. And the deputies, one of the early responding deputies did get a pretty good list of who was in the church and gave that to the lieutenant. But those individuals were not segregated from everybody else. They were able to mingle with people who were not on scene, who were in a different part of the ranch. Conversations were taking place. People were talking on cell phones. And it's really unknown who they were talking to.
And what is the danger or what is the concern on the part of an investigator when suspects or witnesses are talking?
Well, a couple things. One, people could be getting their story straight. The other is it causes witnesses to misremember what they did and what they saw. Because in my experience, good, honest citizens try to help. And they'll tell you something that their neighbor told them as if it was something that they saw. And it is just human nature that if you talk about something over and over and over again, eventually there are parts of it that you think that you did, and it was what someone else did. So you want to clean, even if it's very brief and they didn't see very much or they didn't hear very much, you want a clean statement of what their knowledge is.
Okay, and with regard to whether, if that is not done, what can that lead to? What is your conclusion about what can happen if people are not segregated and they're allowed to talk to people?
Well, one, you can delete things off your phone. You can delete photos. It wasn't known at the time if somebody was videotaping what was going on inside on their phone. That's possible. Almost every case you work now, someone has videotaped it with their phone.
Did you also determine, and this is another point, but that someone had left the scene and whether that person had been identified?
As far as I know, they still have not been identified.
With regard to securing the prop card on that scene, what is your opinion as to whether that was appropriately handled?
No, it should have remained in place. There was an individual, Brian, was told to go get the cart. He went out of sight behind the church, on the other side of the church, and then he moved the cart around towards the lieutenant's marked unit. That should not have been done.
As well, what is your opinion as to or do you have any concerns about how the evidence on top of the prop cart was handled?
Well, Lieutenant Benavides took possession of the firearm with an ungloved hand, and he grabbed it right around the cylinder. So the largest portion of the revolver is how he picked up the revolver, put it into his vehicle, at another occasion pulled it out of his vehicle and put it back on the cart. He did the same thing with the ammo boxes from the cart. So you definitely can't preserve evidence by touching things with your bare hands, but it also could have damaged anything that was on the boxes or the firearm prior to him handling it.
Now, working our way through this, and you may be aware that there was evidence that were rounds thrown away in the course of your investigation. Do you have any concerns at this point with how the police responded to that? The sheriffs responded to that matter?
Well, it's my understanding that they were notified quite late. I think it was a month later. But I didn't see any attempt to go out and see if they were still in the trash at the ranch.
And is that something in your normal investigation, when you were doing homicide investigations, you want to collect all of the potential evidence?
Well, in this case, there's a couple things. The law enforcement was told almost immediately this was the firearm used. But the projectile can't be matched to a firearm. And I know there were at least 3 .45 long Colt revolvers on that cart that day. So although the casing has been tested to match the firearm that was presented to law enforcement, there's no way to know that projectile positively came from that firearm.
Along with the rounds that were thrown away, did you have any other concerns on the follow-up with regard to identifying the source of that live round, or live rounds that appeared on set?
That didn't seem to be followed up on very strongly. It's a little confusing when rounds came onto the set or the scene, the ranch, and who brought them. It seemed that there were a number of times that, at least one occasion, I thought it was more, that Sarah went to PDQ in Albuquerque and brought ammo back. There was the initial ammo provided by PDQ, and then there was some ammo provided by Ms. Gutierrez.
And did you identify any other investigative steps that you think should have been taken to try to further look into the source of the live rounds?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the white boxes with the JS. That individual has never been interviewed, the producer of the ammunition. So there really was no backtracking of where the ammo came from. You can't say this ammo on the prop cart definitively where it came from. You can't say the ammunition in the prop truck definitively where it came from. There should have been more work done in that area.
And when you're in a situation like this as a former homicide detective, when you're trying to trace the root cause of tragic situation that's occurred. Is that something that would be important to you to find out where the live round originated from?
Yes, this case is also a little unusual in the sense that it wasn't really a who done it. It was a why done it and how done it. By that I mean you don't know anybody there. You go out as an investigator. You're trying to find out what happened. Was there an argument on set? Was somebody angry? Did somebody have a mental break? Is there some underlying relationship that may have been the root cause of the shooting? You don't know. And that's why an investigation is conducted, to find out those things, and it's also to trace how that firearm came to be where it came to be.
Okay, sir, and with regard to the search of the prop truck that occurred after the 21st, on the 27th, did you have any concerns with the delay in that search warrant?
Oh, absolutely. There were firearms missing from the weapons cart. They had been moved from between the shooting and the arrival of law enforcement, and they were moved into the safe, into the prop truck. That should have been part of an expanding scene. Like I said, you had the church and the area immediately outside of it, but as soon as it became known the prop truck had an involvement with that shooting, the prop truck should have been secured, just like you saw the scene. Crime scene tape, the deputy placed there, nobody allowed in the truck until such time as you can do a search warrant.
In addition, with regard to the search warrant of Seth Kenny's business, PDQ Props, did you have any concerns about the delay of approximately a month in searching that business?
Oh, of course. Of course. A delay of a few days could be an issue, but a month is, you could do anything in a month.
And from your review of records in this case, was it ascertainable that Mr. Kenny was one of the suppliers of ammunition to Rust?
I think it was known almost immediately, both by the people at the scene and Mr. Kenny himself.
With respect to that delay in search warrant, there's some obvious things I think that would be apparent to anybody. But why is that an issue? What are the primary issues that you want to do to try to secure a home and search it right away, secure a business, search it right away? What are the reasons?
Well, it's preservation of evidence. If no one can get inside the business, then no one can tamper with anything that's inside. And you hope to get everything as it was as soon as you can, without any type of alteration.
With regard to Mr. Kenny, did you also have any concerns about collection of DNA, fingerprints, things like that?
I did. Those things can be used for elimination or positively identifying someone. In the case of Mr. Kenny, if they had his major case prints and they had his DNA, and none of it was found on the boxes of ammunition, then it would eliminate him as somebody possibly being involved.
In your opinion, and your experience as an investigator, would this have been something that you would expect to have been done? That the supplier of ammunition to Rust, that he would also be looked at in that respect?
Yes, considering the environment and the fact that there should not have been live rounds on set.
Now, with regard to Mr. Kenny, did you also determine whether his phone had been seized to be extracted or whether that had been fully extracted?
It was not. His phone was never.
What is your opinion on that potential or that fact that his phone was never taken for extraction?
The contact between Sarah Zachary and he almost immediately after the shooting warranted that.
And are you speaking about the phone call right after the shooting where we heard testimony and there was a text emergency? Is that the time frame you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And are you also aware that there were a number of calls that Seth Kinney, other calls that he was making in contact with Sarah Zachary?
Dozens of calls.
In your opinion, to do a complete investigation, to get the facts out, to get the truth on the table, was that something that you would expect to be done, that they fully investigate Seth Kinney?
Objection.
Sir, would you have expected, in your experience as a homicide detective, a full investigation of Mr. Kinney?
Yes, especially considering that Sarah Zachary worked for him.
Did you also have any concerns about the failure to obtain Mr. Baldwin's phone early on, and what happened after that?
As I stated before, that would have been an immediate. Every deputy should have known that as soon as he was identified as being the shooter. And then my understanding is that he left the state with it, and that forensic analysis was done in New York. I should correct myself. The extraction was done in New York.
And do you have any knowledge of whether all of the contents were obtained off of Mr. Baldwin's phone?
I have no way of knowing that.
We talked about the scene, some search warrants. We talked about phones, fingerprints, DNA. Did you have any other opinions or concerns about the quality of this investigation?
One aspect of it that's still kind of a mystery to me is when the lieutenant arrived on the scene, first two things he asked for was the gun and the armor. I thought that was a little unusual. He didn't seem to be the least concerned of who the shooter was and what that individual's status was. He placed Ms. Catetas into his marked unit, which is pretty common, also considering that she had some anxiety issues and so on. But it immediately became clear she was not free to leave. Whenever the lieutenant would leave his vehicle, he'd tell the deputy to keep an eye on her. When Detective Hancock got to the scene, she almost immediately took charge of Hannah, to include going to the bathroom with her. So she clearly was not free to leave. Every other individual on that ranch was free to walk around, talk to anyone, talk on their phone, do anything they wanted to do, except Ms. Catetas.
Now, you talked about some anxiety and this situation. In your experience, do you have any concerns about interviewing someone in the immediate aftermath of a traumatic situation?
Objection.
Mr. Elliott, in the course of your career in both civilian and military law enforcement, have you encountered situations where people have been interviewed in traumatic situations?
Yes, I have.
And have you personally been involved in that?
I have.
And can you tell the jury, do you have any concerns regarding interviewing an individual right after a traumatic situation?
Yes. It probably would have started with an EMT or paramedic checking her to see if she was okay, see what her status was health-wise. Whether she was having, hyperventilating or whatever symptoms her anxiety had, to make sure she was okay that way. Because of confessions and the way those things can go, you're extra careful to make sure that someone is not in a state that can later be determined not to be a good mental state, and all your work in that confession or that statement is not admissible. So you try to avoid that if you can.
And you said that you would have that person looked at in those situations by an EMT or a medical?
Yes.
What is the purpose of that again?
Again, it's just to make sure that she's in a state where she can, or the individual's in a state where they can talk to you. You want them to be as accurate as they can also. So if that causes a little bit of a delay before you can interview them, and they're still willing to be interviewed, you may get a more accurate statement from them.
Okay. Thank you. And any other concerns about this investigation that we haven't hit on, Mr. Elliott? You may have stated them all. I just wanted to ask if there was anything else.
I don't think so.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-exam.
Mr. Elliott, isn't it true that you are the defense investigator on this case?
It's true.
You work for Mr. Bowles and Ms. Gutierrez, and they are paying you.
That's correct.
And as a person who is employed as the defense investigator, it is your job to aid in her defense. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Now, you seem to take issue with the fact that Lieutenant Benavides touched the firearm with his ungloved hand. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
But you agree with me that unlike a lot of homicides or shootings, this one occurred in the presence of upwards of a dozen people.
That's true.
So there was not going to be any mystery as to who had the gun and who pulled the trigger, correct?
To that aspect, no.
You seem to take issue with the fact that the projectile in this case can't be matched to the firearm, right?
Only in the sense that to confirm that the firearm presented to law enforcement was the actual firearm. It doesn't really change what happened.
But where's the controversy? Do you have some information that the jury hasn't heard, that the gun that was fired by Mr. Baldwin is actually not the gun that was used? I haven't come across that. Have you?
No, I was referring to when the officers arrived at the scene, they didn't know that other than what one person told them.
Okay, but it turned out to be true. There's no controversy. The gun that was used in the shooting is the gun that was in Mr. Baldwin's hand, right?
True.
Okay. And the reason that the projectile can't be matched to the firearm is because the projectile went through two people, and it was so heavily damaged because it went through two human beings. There wasn't enough marking to match it to the bore of the gun. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Now, in terms of fingerprints and DNA on the ammunition box. Sir, did you watch the video where Ms. Gutierrez actually says to Mr. Benavides, "This is the box I was pulling from"?
Yes, I did.
and that box is taken and put into Mr. Benavidez's patrol unit, correct?
The lieutenant placed it in his vehicle, yes.
Right. So where's the controversy in terms of what box she was pulling from?
Part of it was to find where the live ammo originated. That information may have been on the outside of the box. Could have had Seth Kenny's DNA, could have had Seth Kenny's fingerprints, or anyone else where the box came from originally.
But sir, didn't you watch the second interview with Ms. Gutierrez where she actually held up a photograph for Corporal Hancock and said, this is a picture of our boxes of dummies, and not coincidentally, it matched identically to the box that she identified as the box that she was pulling rounds from that day. You watched that interview, didn't you?
Objection.
All right, we're going to take our lunch break. Please be back by 1:30. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Thank you.
All rise.
Hey everybody, Law and Crime's Jesse Weber here. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of the Rust trial of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. You know, this case makes me think about how people get hurt in all kinds of situations that should not happen. And if you do get injured, it is so important to know your rights and whether you should be compensated. That's why I want to highlight the official sponsor of this week's live trial coverage, Morgan & Morgan. They are actually the largest injury law firm in the whole country. And if you're going to take on big insurance companies that often lowball insurance offers in these cases, you need a big firm that's willing to fight. I mean, in the past couple of months, Morgan & Morgan saw verdicts of $12 million in Florida, $6.8 million in New York, and $26 million in Philadelphia. Now, mind you, these are all considerably higher than the highest insurance offers for these accidents. But what also makes Morgan & Morgan so special is that they have completely modernized the process for their clients. They make it super easy because you submit your claim, you upload documents, you talk to your whole legal team, all on your smartphone. That's it. You can see if you have a case in just a few minutes. And in terms of price, you only pay them if you win. There's no upfront fee. Maybe it's not that surprising that 3 million people call them every year. So if you're ever injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. You can submit a claim in 8 clicks or less without even having to leave your couch. To start your claim, visit forthepeople.com/lawandcrimelive.
No, that comes later on.
I didn't have this on me when I was out there talking to you earlier at your house. You heard about it. Okay. This right here is basically what I told you. We're we're processing your house. I need your consent. We're out there right now taking pictures. It was recorded when I talked to you earlier. But this is the actual form that we need to get signed, okay? This is just what we want to process your house. Is that good to go? Okay, I'm going to read this to you. It's wrong. Is it? Spell your last name. Howington?
Yes.
What's your address up there?
502 BALSAM Drive.
BAL?
SAM Drive.
Okay, I'll read it to you here. I, Robin Howington, having been informed of my constitutional right not to have a search made of my premises hereinafter mentioned without a search warrant, and of my right to refuse to consent to search, hereby authorize crime lab technicians who are out there, and officers, that's me or anybody else out there, of the Knoxville Police Department to conduct a complete search of my premises at 502 Boston Drive. These officers are authorized by me to take from my premises any letters, papers, materials, or other properties that they may desire. This written permission is being given by me to the above named officers voluntarily and without threats or promises or any coercion. Now, when I'm saying that, I told you what I was looking for. I have no reason to lie to you. We want the couch. We're looking for any projectiles, any weapons, bullets, anything that was used to shoot your dog. You know, a projectile, if it goes through something, it may be in the wall, it could be in the floor, it could be in the couch. These are things we need, okay? We're going to take pictures. I'm not going to go in there and look in your sock drawer. I'm not looking for anything. I'm not, like I told you, I'm not the drug police. Trust me on that. I'm looking for anything relative to the homicide of your daughter. Okay? Give it a sign right here for me. And this is in conjunction with what we talked about earlier when I was recording earlier. Just want to make sure we got the form signed. Investigator Ward, I don't think I've introduced myself. I'm Tim Riddle. I briefly spoke to you at your house. He spoke to you at the hospital and spoken with you here as well. Normally, in any circumstance that we're dealing with a mama that's lost a child, that's kind of a witness situation with us. But only because we think there's some dishonesty going on, only because of that, we're going to read you your rights, okay? All we're wanting you to do is tell us the truth and don't leave anything out. Remember, this is a homicide investigation. Our job is to get justice for you, especially for your daughter, okay? I don't know what you're feeling right now. You're a mama. I'm sure you feel hurt. I'm sure you feel anger. But all I want you to do is to be straight up with me. Don't bullshit me, okay? He's the same way. We've got kids. We understand to a certain extent, okay?
You know Rachel Rice before? Yeah.
And all I'm going to do is read to you. I'm not going to ask you to sign anything, but I'm going to read you your rights.
Okay, so at this point, you've had her sign a document. Is that correct?
I had her to sign the consent form on the home search, or to process her home.
Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is that?
That's the Knoxville Police Department's residential consent form. That's to she gave us consent to process and do what we needed to do in her home.
Okay, and this here is her signature?
That is her signature.
And this is where you signed as well?
That is.
I wonder if we could move this in as the next exhibit?
Will it be marked and filed as number 15?
16, Judge.
Is it 16? What was 15?
The CD, the video.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And so, when you read this to her word for word, that you all were going to go look at her house, is that correct?
Correct.
She gave you permission to do that,
Correct.
Okay. Now, I've heard that there's been several times where you told her, we're not the dope police, we don't care if you're, tell the jury why it was that you were telling that to the defendant in this case.
My concern is I'm not concerned with drugs. I'm investigating a death of her 5-year-old daughter. That's all I'm concerned about. She would never be charged with anything in relation to that drug, anything we found that were drugs. I would not take care of that. I'm just looking into the death of her daughter.
Okay, now you told Ms. Howington that because you think there's some dishonesty going on, you're going to read her Miranda rights. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the dishonesty that you were referencing, what was that?
Well, the home, or actually some things didn't add up to me at the home, and the cell phone, and they kind of seem to be spiraling.
I'm going to read your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to consult with a lawyer and to have a lawyer present while you're being questioned. If you want a lawyer but you're unable to pay for one, a lawyer will be appointed to represent you for any cost to you. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop answering questions at any time. You will also have the right to stop answering questions any time until you talk to a lawyer. Do you understand that? Basically what we're doing is we're wanting to hear your side of the story, minus the bullshit. That's all we want. Don't lie to us. Okay?
Hey, it happens with the neighbor. I told you I checked and said he's with the neighbor, he's fine. That phone ain't coming on, so I can't get nobody's number for you. So you can't let family know. Is there any other way you can find somebody's number so you can let people know?
I mean, my mom never wants to never about her, but I don't want to call her because she's probably going to have to die of a heart attack. That's the last thing I need.
Where your mama live?
In Bristol, Tennessee.
You're going to have to let some family know because you don't need to be by yourself. You tell me you don't know her dad's number, so you can't call him.
Right, I just figured about contacts.
Is there anybody else any other family?
I really don't talk to nobody. I told you, ever since I got married by a police officer, I really just distanced myself from everybody and made my life just about my kids because I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
I know it's going to be difficult. You might have to hold on. You never know.
I guess my first question is, and I'm going to start kind of at the back end of the situation here, okay? What happened to your phone? Why is it dead?
Because there was like people asking for weed from my baby daddy because they couldn't get in contact with her.
You called somebody from that house when I was there to try to take your baby boy over across the street.
Right.
Okay. You were using that phone then. What happened to that phone in a 30-minute time frame from the time you got or left that house till you got to UT Hospital? That phone. Okay. That phone has been thrown somewhere wet. We do this for a living. We're not dumb. This is your chance to tell the truth.
Let's try, because I know at the hospital, you said you had to go to the bathroom, right? And you tried to give your phone to some lady, correct? And she wouldn't take it. So after she didn't take the phone, what'd you do with it?
I mean, how you gonna charge me with something?
What'd you do with the phone?
I don't want to talk, man, because I'm afraid.
So your child is dead, and you don't want to talk.
But it's because.
So what? No. So what you're telling us is you don't care.
It's not that I don't care. I got raped by a police officer. So please.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious? Your daughter is dead?
I know that.
And you don't want to tell us who killed your child?
No.
Lord have mercy. Do you have a heart? Do you have a soul?
More worried about being charged for throwing that phone in the toilet.
You're fucking right. No, she will be charged. You're going to be charged with tampering. That's tampering with evidence. I'm serious to God. You're going to go to jail for that tonight. You can lawyer up, do what you want to. We want the truth from you. If you tell us the truth, If by George, I'll call the damn DA's office and tell them, hey, we'll slow a roll here. But if you're going to sit here and bullshit us on this, then we're not going to help you. We can help you when you help us, because right now you've committed a crime. I don't give a shit about tampering crime, but I care about that little kid of yours.
No, it's my dog.
Okay?
Listen, it's like I told you earlier, your action before, the way you started with trying to get rid of the phone and throw it away and all that stuff, that doesn't look good for you, right?
I know, but I don't want to get in trouble for
Listen,
weed either.
listen.
My
What did I
son,
tell you?
where's my
What
son
did
gonna go?
I tell you about that weed? What did I tell you about the weed?
That you didn't care.
I don't care about weed. You don't care about weed.
Yeah, I told that. Oh, I promise.
There's a.
I promise we don't give a shit.
Your child is deceased. That's what we care about, okay? And a lot of the things so far have not been matching up. They're not making sense. And the fact you try to get rid of your phone doesn't help all this stuff out, okay? And I told you earlier, I said, you got to tell us the truth if you want this done. When the doctor told you, what did you say? I want them motherfuckers in jail.
Yes, I
The only
did.
way we can get that done is if you tell us the truth and be helpful with us, right?
I told you. We just came home from the park, and I thought somebody was following me. And so I went down the alley. There's an alley between the neighbors where you took Calvin, or where whoever took Calvin, and nobody followed me. And then I didn't think nothing about it. She was laying on the couch. I turned Netflix on for her, and Gavin was sitting right beside me. I have a roast still cooking right now in the crock pot. I was getting ready to make the plates, and somebody came to the door, and I was sitting on the, whatever you want to call it, the footrest, and she was like this far away from me, laying there, because I was asking her, what else do you want? Because the only thing I had in the crock pot was the roast and carrots. And I let them choose what they want to eat because her dad is a vegan, and so she's somewhat picky about what she eats. And I didn't even hear the door open because it was just a screen door. I had the other door still open because my purse was in the car still because I had to carry Gavin in because he didn't have shoes on. So whoever, only thing I seen was a black dude come in, and I heard a gunshot, and then I looked at my baby, and then I looked at him, and his eyes got big as I don't know what. Like, I feel like it was meant for me.
What kind of car did it in?
It was a black Chrysler. I'm almost sure it was. I'm not 100% sure, but I can see, like, out the door from where the foot thing was.
So you never went outside to see the car?
No, I
You
got
just
a
thought
towel.
yourself,
I got a towel and put it on her. I didn't know what else to do with Clay. I had to run to the other couch in the other living room and get my phone and call 911. And then I came back and held the towel on her, and then my baby was flipping out, so I had to hold him too.
Well, let's try something else. You said that y'all were at the park. The park is where?
In Corns, by Corns Pool.
And who was at the park?
Me, Gavin, and Destiny.
Nobody else?
No.
Just you three?
I mean, there was other people there, but as far as people I know, no.
Just okay. So you and your two kids.
Yes.
Did y'all leave the park?
Well, actually, I'm gonna be honest with you. These three boys, there's like this may be something, I don't know, but these three Mexican boys, there's like a fence or whatever, and there's like a bench right beside the fence, and they kept on crawling over it, going to this building that's right beside of the park. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. So the boys were making comments about my breast. So I said, you guys are old enough to be talking to me like this, especially in front of my kids. I was like, you're already teaching my son bad things because he's trying to crawl over the fence too. So I went and pulled away because when I walked back up to them, they ran in and crossed the fence again. And when they crossed the fence, I drove up there to see if their parents were there. Well, their parents was there, and it was two Mexican men. And I said, you need to teach your sons to be more respectful because they were being very disrespectful and talking to me in ways that I didn't appreciate, especially in front of my daughter.
And so did you drove off after that?
Yes, sir.
Headed back to your place?
Yes, sir. I went down Oak Ridge Highway and then turned left on Shaw Road and then went the back way by the Waggles on Callahan and through the back roads.
And so when you get back to your place, you said you pulled in through the alley?
Yeah, because I felt somebody was following me.
So you thought somebody was following you from the park?
No, I don't know from the park. I wasn't paying that much attention because they were always complaining that they were thirsty and they were hungry and all this. So I was just consoling them, telling them we're going to be home, you know, the roast is done. Basically, Destiny was the one that was talking.
So when did you first think that somebody was following you?
When I turned left off Oak Ridge Highway onto Shaw Road.
And so what kind of vehicle was that?
I'm not sure. It was a dark colored car. I'm not sure.
So you think a dark colored car was following at that time?
Yes, sir.
But you go straight on home.
Yeah, but I went through the alley, and when I went through the alley, nobody was behind me, so I didn't think nothing of it.
So when did you, so this dark colored car that you thought was following you, when did you not see it following you?
When we stopped at the red light on Callahan, they weren't behind me.
Callahan Clinic?
Central.
At Central?
Callahan and Central by the Waggles.
So right there by the Waggles and I guess a couple of restaurants and stuff that you didn't see it anymore at that point?
Where Asian Cafe used to be, correct.
So you didn't see the car anymore at that point?
Correct.
And then you go into your house.
Correct.
And you say you go through an alley. So you park.
There's an alley in between the neighbor's house where you took out and the other house.
So do you park behind the house?
No, I can't park behind my house.
So you go through the alley.
And then I just pulled into my driveway where my car is
And
now.
then you just come on and pull into your driveway.
Correct.
Right.
And then Destiny went in, and then, like I said, first I had to unlock the door, so me and Destiny went to the door, and I unlocked the door, and then I came back out, and I got Gavin, because he didn't have no shoes on, and then I came back out, and I got my purse, and turned on Netflix for her, and Gavin was sitting right beside me, and I was asking him, what else do you want me to fix? Because the roast and the carrots are done. And the next thing I know, the screen door was closed, but whatever you want to call it, the big door was open. And I didn't even hear it open because the TV in the living room was on also, in the other living room.
And so when you get home, you said nobody else lives with you?
No, sir. No.
Nobody, you don't have either of the kids' dad or male friend that spends the night something?
Yes, I do.
Who was that?
His name is Daniel.
Daniel
Hensley.
Okay. You didn't tell me about him earlier when I asked you.
No, we just started talking, like he may have spent the night like 3 times in like a month.
Okay. So, but.
And then he didn't stay there last night, he didn't stay there the night before, none of that.
All right, so you get home with you 3 there. You got Netflix on, you're sitting there talking to them about what they want to eat, and you say.
The rest of the vegetables, yes.
Somebody just comes through the door.
Right.
Doesn't say anything?
Nothing.
And just shoots.
Yes, one time.
And so you said she's laying on the couch.
Correct.
So would Gavin be sitting like at her head or at her feet?
He was like beside me.
Where were you in
There's like a footstool thing, and I was sitting right.
So maybe she like.
So she's laying right here,
Mm-hmm.
the footstool's right here,
Okay.
I'm right here, he's right here.
So Gavin's kind of more at her feet, I would say.
Correct.
Her head's this way, and her feet would be.
No, her head was this way. Her head was this way, towards the door.
But Gavin wasn't at the end towards her head, is what you're telling me.
Gavin was at the end.
So he's over here.
He was on this side of me. She was laying towards, her head was laying towards the front door.
So she's laying this way, kind of her body's facing north.
He was facing towards the door.
Front door.
Correct. Correct. And she had her head on the pillow.
And this person comes in, don't say anything.
Don't say anything. And it was like me and her was this far apart. And shot. And then when he shot, it was like his eyes got big. Because, she instantly started bleeding. And, she just went out of it. And I just don't feel like it was meant for her.
Where was he standing when he shot?
He was probably about a foot away from that footstool thing, whatever.
So he's close to you.
Yes.
Then there's no way that he could have hit from you. He's a foot away from
I mean,
you.
I'm not gonna say a foot. He was like, will you see where the door was?
Yes, ma'am.
I would say probably from here to you.
There's still no way.
There's no way. Yeah.
There's just no way. If you're there and she's there.
Like, shoot my baby.
Well, that's what we're trying to piece this thing together to figure out. You said that once he shot, he just turned around and went out the door?
His eyes got big, like he paused for a second. Like, yeah, he didn't walk out the door, he ran.
So you saw this guy?
Yes.
You probably got a good look at him, right?
Yes.
Okay, Detective Riddle, at this point in time, obviously you've not seen and reviewed, at this point in time when this interview is going on, the recording from the neighbor, is that correct?
No officers are stood out doing the neighborhood canvas.
Okay, and so now that you have reviewed that, is this story that she's told about her coming in with Destiny and then going back out and getting Gavin and then come back in and then going back out and getting her purse, this person coming in and the person running out, is that consistent with what you see in that video?
No.
Black shirt, and I think he had on blue jean shorts, but I'm not sure. He didn't have no hat on or nothing. He was dark skinned.
When you say dark, do you mean like
Darker than me.
Darker than me, okay. So darker than me, but how tall was he?
About my height.
How tall are you?
5'5".
What kind of, how was his hair?
It was short, like yours.
Was like mine?
He didn't have a hat on, anything.
Yeah, anything that like stood out, like you have tattoos?
I wasn't paying attention to why I see my baby in.
And so after he runs out the door, you say you think you see a black car
Correct.
drive by. And what do you do at this point?
I got the towel and I put it on her, and then I was looking for my phone and I remembered it was on the first living room couch.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in there and I got it and I called 911. And I just kept pushing the towel on her.
Was she talking to you or anything?
And I kept on trying to talk to her and she wouldn't say nothing.
Do you remember how many shots you heard?
Just one.
Just one shot. Do you think she saw the guy? Maybe she tried to put her hands up or something? Anything you remember?
I don't know. It was so fast. Like it happened like 10 seconds total.
All right, well, let's clear some things up. So first you said that you left the door open. Is that something you do all the time?
No.
So you usually don't leave the door open?
I mean, I do, but like I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about him eating.
Because you said first that the door was left open because your purse was still there.
Right, it was, yeah.
But then when you just started telling me, you said that
I had already went and got my purse though.
and you still left the door open after you already went and got your purse.
Right.
Why was that?
Just trying to get them to eat. She kept on saying she was hungry.
Were you or maybe waiting for somebody to come see
No.
his husband showing up?
No.
Well, so what's the deal with her dad? If you're not with her and some other guy's coming over, what's the deal with Destiny's dad?
He got an aggravated assault charge. He's the reason why I don't have my son, because he beat me to the point where I was unconscious, and the house that we lived in, he strangled me, and the door was open where it was a glass door, and he was paid $1,600 a month where we lived, and I guess the neighbors started arguing because the police showed up, and I was unconscious, and he was pouring water on my face. So we really don't get along at all. He just don't want to pay child support, so therefore he gives me money, basically. So, but people, like, he don't know a lot of people around here, so like I turn him on to people or let him meet people.
You middleman for him, because you said people text you trying to get weed.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have some contact with him.
Yes. Oh yeah. So, but I mean, and that's the thing. We just got an argument 2 days ago because I was supposed to be getting a settlement from where I got raped, and he's been trying to get back with me, but he's a narcissist big time. Like he wants to control me. He shows up at my house unannounced, and he had called me a bitch for some reason, and I got mad at him, and I was like, "You're not gonna call me a bitch to my face because I'm just tired. I mean, I miss my son. Like, his dad won't even let me."
And just so that we're clear, the son that she's talking about now is not Gavin, is that correct?
No, it's not.
She's talking about an additional child that she doesn't have
I believe it
custody
was an
of.
older child.
Yes. And so, I mean, we've always had a lot of animosity, but because of the rain, I don't really let my kids out of my sight, so I don't want to put Gavin in daycare, so I just basically, and then his dad just is out of the picture completely.
So you stay at home, so when Destiny's dad's name is Antoine, right?
Yes.
When he gets to see her, does he come around there? Or?
He comes to the house sometimes, or last weekend he took her. That was the first time he took her in a long time. But normally he comes to the house and just sits and tries to play family.
How often does he come see her?
Well, they work on the National Fitness. If she they have this point system on at the school, and if she gets 80%, then he'll take her to National Fitness, and they have these classes that she can do, like karate and ballet and gymnastics. And so he would take her to that and then bring her back to the house. And he tried to get me to go, but I wouldn't let her go.
Because I saw some reports of you and him had a pretty...
Yes, he's very violent, yes. Extremely violent.
And you hadn't seen him today?
No. I seen him today. I talked to him today, and actually Destiny had called him, but she had a bad day at school. Guess what is today?
Saturday.
Yeah, she had a bad day at school on Friday. She was in the principal's office for 2 hours because she had poked some little girl or something. And she was walking slowly and holding up the class line where they were late to lunch. And she's scared of him, so she didn't want to talk to him. But he had called.
Oh, her dad?
Yes. And she didn't want to talk to him today. And he asked her what she did at school. And she said she was bad. And she ran off. And when she ran off, he was like, I was like, she don't want to talk to you. I was like, she's scared of you. And he was like, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you because of what had happened yesterday. I told you came to my house and dropped her off because he...
Okay, so to be clear, in this initial relaying of events, she says that Antoine was not at the house on September 14th of 2019. Is that correct?
Those are her words.
Fitness because on Thursday she had a good day. But the guy Kelly that I told you, me and him went out to eat with Gavin at the food truck place on Central Avenue, and it was like he was watching.
Can we pause that for a second? I don't want to have the jury misled. She didn't say in this video that he was there on the 14th. She says he called on the 14th and talked to Destiny on the phone. And I just don't want the jury to be confused and call this a lie.
That's what I said.
Ladies and gentlemen, the beauty of your role in this function is you are the ultimate judges of facts, and you judge what the facts are, not what either one of the lawyers tell you they are. Keep playing the video.
So just to make sure it's clear, she told you that Antoine was not there on the day that her child was killed, correct?
Those were her words.
All right, keep playing the video.
Right when we pulled up.
And Antoine pulled up.
Yes, and he came beating on the door like he's the damn Pauline.
Okay, I'm going to back this up so it doesn't get confusing.
But he had called.
Oh, her dad?
Yes, and she didn't want to talk to him today. And he asked her what she did at school, and she said she was bad, and she ran off. And when she ran off, he was like, I was like, she don't want to talk to you. I was like, she's scared of you. And he was like, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you because of what had happened yesterday. I told you came to my house and dropped her off because he had her because it was National Fitness because on Thursday she had a good day. But the guy Kelly that I told you, me and him went out to eat with Gavin at the food truck place on Central Avenue, and it was like he was watching. I feel like, because he pulled up right when we pulled up.
And Antoine pulled up.
Yes, and he came beating on the door like he was the damn police.
So why is she afraid of him though?
I really don't know, because I mean, he's seen her be very cruel to me. It's talked back to me.
So what?
And then today, when he was on the phone with her, like, she was like, I don't want to talk to him. And I was like, Antoine, she's scared of you. And I told her, I said, baby, you don't have to be scared of your daddy. You don't have to be scared because you had a bad day at school. Because at the end of the day, that's your daddy and he still loves you and he's not going to do anything to you. And she still refused to talk to him. So then he was like, started making it about me. He was like, you're nothing but a whore. I can't believe you had Callie over there. But, because, I mean, I've known Callie for like 10 years, longer than I've known Antoine.
This is the Daniel Hensley guy?
Yes.
Callie?
Yes, he's from California. And so, and I was like, what's the problem? And so him and Callie got into it because he was like, she's nothing but a whore. I got pictures of her sucking my dick, blah, 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 this, which is, it could have been true, but it's like years ago, like 4 years ago, I'd say. She was about to be sick. So, like, he was like, she's a whore, blah, 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 this, and like, they got to tussling.
Just yesterday?
Yes, they got to tussling.
At the food truck?
No, at my house, and he brought her home. And Callie had took her and put her in her bedroom. And whenever that happened, he came back outside because Antoine was like, fuck you, bitch, you ain't nothing but a whore, blah, 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 like I said. Mm-hmm. And they got to tussle because he's like, you're not going to be disrespectful like that. You shouldn't be saying this in front of her daughter or her son. You know, that's not right. She has to live here. Would you do this at your house? And like Antoine kind of put his hands on him. They didn't really hit each other, but they kind of put their hands on each other, and I pulled him back. And then Callie made the statement. He was like, well, if she's a hoe, I guess she's my hoe now, or something to that effect. And Antoine went and got in the car, and he tried to back up and hit me. That's why my phone was messed up.
What was he driving yesterday?
His GMC, I guess it's a Yukon. It's black.
How do you think he's going to respond to this, to find out about this?
I mean, I'm sure it's going to be hard because it's his daughter. He's only got 2 kids and his son's 12, so.
Do you think he'd ever do anything to try to hurt Destiny?
I can't really answer that because I'm not around. I mean, he won't even let me know where he lives. And she's scared of him.
So tell me this. So this situation that you're saying happened yesterday, could that possibly happen today?
What do you mean?
Them getting into it. Could that have possibly took place today?
Not
yesterday. Them getting into it at your house. Could that have possibly happened today?
No, it was Friday.
You're positive it was yesterday?
Yes.
They didn't get into it today?
No. Callie hadn't even been there. I didn't see him all last night after he left. When Antoine left, he left right after him.
Was he supposed to be coming over there today? See or anything?
Who? Antoine? No.
Well, Antoine just show up at your house.
Yes, he does.
Well, you think he would just show up mad at you?
Oh, he has, definitely.
And maybe try to do something to you and just so happen that it was Destiny? And could that possibly be what might have happened tonight?
I know it wasn't Antoine. I can promise you it wasn't Antoine, but I mean, he sells drugs. People are going to do whatever for him. That's one thing I can't say.
So you think that maybe he could have got somebody to come over there and do that? But you don't think it would have been him?
Right. I know it wasn't him. I've seen this man face to face. I know it wasn't him.
Okay, so again, at this point in her relaying information to you, she's adamant that Antoine was not at the house when Destiny was killed. Is that correct?
That's what she spoke to me about. He was not there.
What is the line on the?
I think it's probably on his screen.
The screen is not functioning.
And I'm not touching it. I don't know what's going on with it.
I suspect if you shake
You
it.
hit the back button, it's not leaning for you. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Well, there's still some more stuff that we gotta, that's not making sense, right? Because you're saying you know it wasn't him, you don't know who this guy, but you don't know who the guy was.
Right.
And you're saying that it was one shot, and that could be possible, I don't know. But it's still not explaining why we're not finding any bullets there at the house, right?
Were they inside of her?
No. There were no bullets inside of her, right? So
Well, they have to be there.
that would mean that it would have to be somewhere at the house, in the couch. If she's laying on the couch, and she shot on the couch, we didn't find it. There's not any bullet holes in that couch, right?
Right, Detective Riddle, at this point in time, nobody's recovered bullets from the home, is that correct?
No, I believe we're getting relayed information from forensics.
Okay, now at some point in time, did you receive information that there was in fact a bullet in maybe the pillow or the couch or something of that nature?
Yes, I did.
Okay, but you've not received that information at this point in the interview, is that
As of
correct?
this point, no.
So that's not adding up. This is 1 + 1 = 2, right? So you tell me she's on the couch, she got shot.
Right.
It don't add up to that. Is this, and I don't know if maybe you're scared, so maybe you're forgetting something or you're changing a little bit, but did this happen at the house?
Oh, yeah.
It happened at the house.
Yes, it was right there. We were sitting right there. She was laying there watching Netflix. Gavin was right beside of me. We were talking about what she was going to eat. The dude came in the door and shot, and that was it.
He's been to the hospital, and what he's trying to tell you is he saw the trajectory of her wound through her person. And it would indicate to him that she's been shot through and through, right? It looked pretty straight. And on the autopsy, they'll stick the rod in her and let her know that tells the trajectory. Would it indicate to you that she was shot at he was over? Okay. If that's the scenario, then there would be a bullet or a hole in that couch going into your floor. And we're telling you it's not. We're not making it up. We're telling you that we cannot find a hole in that couch. She doesn't have a bullet in her, and it just don't disappear.
Right. I mean, I understand that completely.
And we don't think she shot. We think she shot more than once.
I only heard one gunshot.
Well, I mean, that could be. We're not saying it could be.
But that's why I was asking if maybe she put her hands up or something.
That's why I come back here and ask you about the couch.
Right. Oh, yeah, you can take the
Well, this is, and nobody's saying you're lying. This ain't adding up. It's not
I
making
understand.
sense.
I understand.
And you're sure it's a black car?
I'm not 100% sure, but yes.
Because there's a big difference between black and other colors.
Right. I mean, I didn't get up and just go out and look like I told you.
No, because I think I question you because it's a pretty long distance. I don't know how you could assume it was a black car
Right.
when you're at least 25 to 30 yards away from that small little front door. So, I mean, were you assuming?
No, I wasn't assuming, but that's what I thought that I seen.
And usually in our job, in our profession, there's usually a motive. Like if someone comes in your house and there's a problem with you, bad guys are bad guys. They can be shitheads, but most bad guys have a heart. They're not going to shoot a little kid. They're going to shoot you if you're the target. Or if they're going to rob you, they're going to say, I want your shit. He didn't say nothing. Just shoot your little girl.
That's why I'm thinking that there's something you may tell us.
No, I swear to God.
You've already told us you're scared. You mentioned it right off the bat.
Yeah,
You're scared.
I mean, I got raped by a police officer.
Honey, we're not.
Listen, that ain't us, right?
I understand that.
We ain't always in their bad seats everywhere, right? I hate that happens to you. We're here trying to help you. We want to help you out in this situation.
Yes, I want you to look up here in jail.
And we need you to help us because, like I said, it's not adding up. People don't shoot kids.
Well,
They don't do that. That's a different kind of evil if somebody just
that's
blatantly
why I feel like it was meant for me.
But
There's no
what
way.
you're telling us, there's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way somebody's that close and misses you and hits her like that.
I mean, it's almost like it's been vindictive, which could be a domestic violence issue. I can't have you, so I'm gonna take somebody else close.
She was straight up with you. I feel like it's her dad, and I feel like you don't want to tell us that. I feel like he's pissed off about all this stuff that's going on. You won't let him see her. She's scared of him. I feel like he came in there, pissed off, and you scared to say something because you know it's going to be the same thing that's been going down in the past. I feel like that's exactly what's hitting. You don't want to say it because you're scared.
I think you are too. I think he's hitting the nail on the head. I don't think he intended to kill the little girl. I think he was going to shoot and scare the hell out of you. And he's acts like you said. He said, "Oh shit, I've shot my baby."
I'm telling you, I'm not.
You're right, okay, you're right, okay, all right.
See, you got serious.
I feel in my heart the whole time. You gotta tell me, listen.
No,
Listen.
daughter,
Listen
too.
to me. Listen. She is your baby. She is your baby. We don't, if he is evil enough to do something like this, we don't care about him right now. If he didn't care about his daughter to do her like why are you caring about her? You need to be trying to make sure we get her justice, and like you said, put this motherfucker in jail. He's pissed at you over this whole Kelly situation.
You're right.
He's pissed that she's mad at him. He comes in there and he shoots his baby.
That's not man.
You're right, okay, I'm glad I didn't do it.
No, you've done the right thing.
We need to get you to the family so we can get you to the junior somewhere, okay?
I just want my baby.
I told you about the hospital, but we can't, that right now is.
That's what I'm not, I mean, I'm
It's like that, and we'll do that, okay?
Just, that's another thing.
Well,
He got mad because I had Gavin, because the guy that I had Gavin with, I was with before him, and then I got with him after him, and he made me put my hands on the Bible and promise him that I would never mess with him no more. I mean, this dude used to nail the windows shut on me and Destiny and had locks on his house, and we lived together to where we couldn't get out without a key.
This guy's fixing to say this.
So tell me the truth, so he blamed the king that he did that tonight, didn't he? It wasn't meant for you, it was meant for Destiny.
I think like you said, he just wanted to
I
scare
think he
me.
wanted to scare you and he shot her and it fucked him up. And he don't drive a black. He drives a white one.
He drives a white 300,
I don't know. He goes to the POW auction behind Walmart, Clinton Highway, and buys cars.
We're pretty certain it's white.
Okay.
But you know what kind of church is in there.
And he had them.
I don't know.
Because we've got witness.
What was he wearing?
He had on a black shirt. And he had a black hat on.
Did he say anything to you? Did you ever see him when you first got home?
No.
You think he might have been, you think he really was following you
I think that he was watching.
I think you're right. I think the video is going to tell us that he was probably sitting, watching, and waiting for you to come home. We knew this is domestic. And we figured the whole time that you're scared. We understand it. We just don't want you to lie to us. You know, it's more than, you're okay. You're okay.
You lost the baby. Come on.
Okay, Detective Riddle, can you kind of explain to the jury a little bit about the emotions that are going on with you and the officers and Ms. Howington in the room?
I'm going to speak for myself. I'm frustrated just by the numerous untruths that are being told. We go in the direction because we felt like a motive. This is just not a normal shooting. So we have a database at the Knoxville Police Department. We just pull Antoine Oliver's name out of a database. There's the database that has Antoine abusing Miss Howington. So that's why we're assuming there's more to this story than just some random black guy coming in and shooting this 5-year-old little girl. So we're trying to get this. You see how hard it is for us to get the truth out of her. We're trying to get more out of her.
Okay, so at this point in time, whenever she says that it's Anton that came in and shot the little girl, do you believe that to be a true story as you're sitting there?
As I'm sitting there, yes, I'm kind of excited, but we got some steps. We're going to go through the process of getting a warrant.
Okay, and so just so that the jury's clear where we're headed, this is not the story that she's going to stick to, though, is it?
Oh heavens, no.
This is all you need right now, okay? We're trying to help you. We ain't the bad guys, right? We want to help you. Thank you for finally coming and telling us the truth, okay? Did you, after this whole thing happened, did you call him? Did you contact him?
No.
You didn't call him? Did you call anybody?
I called Kelly.
You talk that, did you tell him what just happened? You think he'll talk to us?
It'd be good.
He will. He's so sweet too. And he's on probation.
What did we just tell you?
What did we just tell you?
We know you tried to destroy your phone. We don't give a
You
shit.
don't care about Liddy? How many times have I tell you that? I don't care about that.
I mean, he might come and talk to you and tell you that him and Antoine got into it.
That's all, yeah. If he can tell us that, he can tell us that, yeah, you called me, told me what happened. Afterwards, that's wonderful. We'll do this for probation. I'll tell the probation officer, hey, he's helping us some need and no trouble. We're not in here trying to just hem folks up. But if folks do bad stuff like shoot their own child, that's the people we trying to hem up. They're the people we trying to put in jail for the rest of their life.
I can't believe the baby is gone, John.
I can't imagine how I feel at this point. But I'm telling you, you need some family or somebody right now. You don't need to be by yourself.
I really personally think we probably need to put you in a room somewhere. We'll try to get somebody from special crimes to get you some help, get you in a room. You don't need to be at that house, because this guy's done something bad. He may do something worse. I don't know how it could be any worse than what he done.
I ain't trying to scare you, but you don't need to be by yourself. You don't need to be at home right now.
And you've told us the whole truth.
You promise when he comes in that door, he doesn't say anything.
He didn't say nothing.
Did you say, what the hell are you doing? Did you say anything to him?
I didn't even recognize he was there until the gun went off.
What kind of gun was it?
I don't know. It was black. That's all I know.
Did it look like a semi-automatic or a revolver?
I don't even know. I don't know anything about that.
Did it kind of look like the ones we carry, or did it have the ones that had like a little round cylinder on it?
What do you mean by around the cylinder? Let me see that one and I'll tell you.
Well, I can't take it out.
It's a semi-automatic.
It's like it's got, you put the magazine in like that.
I don't know.
Or did it look like, you ever seen like in a movie, people play like Russian roulette and stuff, and they take the gun and they put a bullet in and spin it around?
No.
That's called a sit. It didn't look like that.
No.
So it looked like something like this. More
Smaller.
kind of like this. Have you ever seen them with it before?
No.
You've ever seen them with guns before?
Have you spoken with him by phone today? And okay.
No.
The reason I want to say this, and I promise you, we're not going to lie to you. It is pivotal, and I'm going to tell you this from the prosecution standpoint. It's pivotal that we look into your phone, because that's what they consider exculpatory evidence. We would like to see if y'all are, and if you are, that's fine.
No, it was on the phone call.
Oh.
All right, so Detective Riddle, at this point in time, you're making or moving toward the decision to charge Antoine with a homicide in this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
We would still like to see your phone record. And I promise you, you've got to be able to trust me. Okay, I don't care. I told you, if you sold 10 pounds of weed, I don't give a shit. It would be good if we could download your phone. We deal with this all the time. I promise you, we're not going to touch you. I don't care. We're here for your daughter, and we're here for you.
The last thing we want to do is put you in jail.
What do you mean by that was my phone?
We like to download your phone, to look at your call log, to look if there's any messages. If you've got messages.
I don't have any messages.
Okay.
You haven't messaged me.
All that you do is verify your story. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing. And defense attorneys, this is what they're going to do. They're going to attack you. They're going to attack that phone because we didn't do our job. Trust me, I know how it works. You got to trust me. I promise you.
The last thing we want to do is take a mother and just watch her daughter die and put her in jail. We don't want to do that. That's not what we're here for.
You've got a 2-year-old son that witnessed this, and it's terrible.
That's what we want. We want to get you back to him and get you somewhere safe. And we want to go out there and get looking for Antoine. Because he's going to ask for this.
We're going to make a lineup. I want you to get around the lineup, okay? Make sure we got the right guy. And we're going to put a warrant on him. First-degree murder.
Just the one I showed you?
Yes, sir.
We're going to still show you a lineup, right?
Yes, sir.
Let us go try to see if we can get somebody so we can put you up tonight and get you and Gavin somewhere safe.
And do you trust us? Now, we've come across, I've been an asshole now, I apologize. I know you're having a hard time.
I'm going to tell you why he's an asshole. We take this stuff serious.
No, I'm serious.
I'm angry. This ain't, this, we don't just.
This is my baby, so just imagine how I feel.
Well, and you gotta understand, it's your baby, and we want the truth from you, and you want to give us the truth, so that ain't your baby.
But you're scared.
But we understand, like I said, I went and I saw where y'all, you and him have had it out. Y'all had it out for a while, since about 2012, 14 or something.
He's the reason why I lost my son.
And when I saw that, I figured, I said, this is.
It's just, I can't comprehend it because I can't imagine hurting my kids. You can't imagine hurting her. I mean, if you got a problem with your girlfriend or baby mama, move on. That's your kid. That's with you forever.
We'll be back in just a second, okay? You need something to drink?
Good.
So.
Okay. You want to cover anything? Okay.
All right, so at this point, when you and Detective Wardlaw leave the room, what are you all going to do?
We are, I don't know if it's me or him, but we made a photo lineup of Antoine Oliver, who's the father of Destiny Oliver. Not only that, but we're corresponding with officers on scene still.
We ask you, do you recognize the document that I'm handing you?
Yes, it's the black and white photo lineup that I made of Antoine Oliver.
Okay, we could make this exhibit number
17.
17.
No objection.
Let it be marked in file as 17.
And can you explain to the jury just briefly what you mean when you say photo lineup?
Well, generally, in the rule of thumb is you want to make a six-person lineup, make them very close as possible. In this case, she knew Antoine Oliver. She ID'd him, but we want to make sure we got the right Antoine Oliver. So we made 6 photos, and we put Antoine in a photo, and she was able to identify him as number 3 in the photo.
Okay, so she actually circled this is the person she's saying shot her child in this recitation of what happened.
Correct.
You publish this to the jury.
You may.
Are you and Detective Wardlow doing anything else while you're out of the room at this point?
Yeah. Not only with that, I think we continue to look at the database as the reports, getting a picture of the violence with Antoine toward her. And I believe we're also, like I said, we were corresponding with officers on scene about video.
Or if we could resume with Exhibit 15.
I'm sorry.
If I can resume with this.
You may.
Actually, let me read again whatever this is.
I'm not
I know
touching
you're
yours.
not touching it. I know you're not touching it.
I don't need it if you want. I can just view that up there.
I don't know how to unhook this from that because that's how the system's set up.
What's wrong? Can't see what's wrong. Okay, look at each other. Take a look at this.
And I really don't want to consent to the phone stuff either. Just for my personal protection.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Well, we'll keep it. We'll just have to write a search warrant. You still keep it. We're still gonna go in. We're just gonna have to do a search warrant. Just more work on our part.
Okay, Detective Riddle, so the defendant in this case has indicated that she does not want to consent to have you all look at her phone, is that correct? Correct. Okay, so at this point in time, do you all know about the text message that she sent to Joe Key that says that Gavin shot Destiny?
No.
Here, Bob. Here, I'm gonna show you 6 pictures. You tell me the person. You tell me the person, and you circle the person that shot and killed your daughter. You sign it right there. You should write here for me, please. That's indicating you said photo number 3, right? You just put your initial right here. And I think signature right here.
Hey, so tell me this. You said it looked like it was like a gun like this. So that's a semi-automatic. So no shoot that you had was called a casing, right? So it should have been at least one of those found. You remember seeing one of those?
You know what the casing is?
No, sir.
That's this part of the bullet. That's the bullet, that's the casing, that's what spits it out. So you didn't see any of those?
No, because my baby is like the messiest baby in the world, so he could have very well picked it up. I don't know. Because he was there with her and around her and without her anything. I kept my phone in the other living room.
Do you want a gun? Ever had a gun?
All right, so here, when Detective Wardlow said, "Do you own a gun?" what did she do with her head?
She nodded no.
Would it surprise you if you told you that a gun was found outside the house? That would surprise you.
So at this point, have you all received information that there is a gun that was outside the house?
We have video.
And had the officers actually found that gun outside the house?
Yes.
Yes, it was. I was scared.
So what do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying.
Like, I have nightmares of this police officer coming to kill me.
So, like, you keep talking about the incident, like what's the deal with that?
Because it bothers me.
Like, did it happen here or somewhere else? Or?
It happened in Sullivan County. At a landfill.
Okay, Kingsford.
Yes.
How long ago was this?
It was March 21st, 2018.
And he was prosecuted?
He's about to be rape, assault, and inclined to a TBI agent.
So, but I asked you about if a gun outside your house, and you said I was scared. Like, I don't understand that answer.
Yeah, I was scared that he's going to come and try to kill me.
So you have a gun?
You have a gun? What kind of gun?
You have?
I don't even know. A friend of mine gave it to me. It's not even really my gun, it's his. He just basically leaves it there, so.
Is it somewhere in the house?
I'm sorry?
Is it somewhere in your house right now?
No.
Where's it at?
Wherever he put it.
Is it the one that was found outside your house?
I guess if that's where he put it.
Who's your friend that would put it there?
Copy.
So to be clear, Detective Riddle, at this point in time, Ms. Howington says there may be a gun outside her house, but that Callie put the gun outside her house?
That's what I took it as being.
And who is Callie for the jury?
Callie is Daniel Hensley, a guy that she was dating.
Is this the story she's going to stick with?
No.
When did you put it there?
I'm not sure. He was supposed to put it in his storage.
In the storage? Where's the storage?
I have no idea. On paper or somewhere.
Oh, I thought you said your storage.
No.
So you think that maybe Gavin might have picked up the casing? What would he have did with it? Because it was.
There's no telling.
I
mean, I'm not 100% sure that he did.
Because it's not lined up that there's no bullet, and there should be a bullet, and there's no casing if it's a semi-automatic, right?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a clue what kind of gun. I don't know.
Well, you said it wasn't one like people play Russian roulette with, so that means it's got to be.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure. No.
So when you got home, you sure nobody was at your house when you pulled up? Nobody was already there?
No.
Detective Riddle, is that consistent with what you saw in the video when she says there was nobody there when she pulled up?
What you saw in the video was a car there waiting, and then she pulls up.
Any point did you go back outside and move your car?
Yes.
Okay, when did that happen?
After I turned the Netflix off for the kids.
Okay, why'd you move it?
Because I always park in the same place so that the mailman can get to the mailbox.
And that's before your baby was shot?
Correct.
And did you see another car outside when you went to move yours?
A white Chrysler.
Okay, who was that?
Antoine.
It was Antoine. So was Antoine already there when you got there?
Yes.
He was already at your house when you got there? Inside or outside?
Outside.
Waiting on it.
And I didn't know that he was going to be there.
Okay, so why didn't you tell us that earlier?
Because, I mean, this is his daughter, too. I know that he killed her, but I just don't feel like he did it on purpose. I feel like he was trying to kill me.
So he was already there. You, what happens?
He tried to talk. He came in the house. And when he came in the house, I told him I didn't want to talk to him. And he went back outside the house.
Okay, then what happened?
Then he came back in.
He brought a gun back in with him?
Yes.
Is this story consistent with what you see in the video of somebody coming in, going back out, and then coming back in?
No.
So this gun that Callie gave you, how long have you had it?
Not very long.
And it was in the house tonight?
No.
The gun never was in the house tonight.
So, with that being said, if we told you there was a gun found outside, and we want to make sure that it's not the gun you said Kelly gave you, would you mind giving us DNA so we can make sure it's not?
I don't understand what you're saying.
So there's a gun found outside.
Right.
You said Kelly gave you a gun at some point.
Right.
We want to make sure that that's not the gun that Kelly gave you. The way we do that is DNA. You mind giving us your DNA so we can make sure that's not the gun?
I'm saying Callie did give me that gun. Yeah.
I know that.
Okay.
And you're saying you don't know where that gun is at now.
Correct.
Right. But there was a gun outside your house.
Correct.
So to make sure that that's not the same gun that Callie gave you, we'll run your DNA against the DNA found on that gun. Do you mind if we get DNA so we can do that?
I guess it is the gun that Callie gave me, yeah. He told me he put it outside. He was supposed to put it in storage.
So it'd be his DNA on it, not yours, right?
Should be, yeah.
Okay,
But
that's
I
what
never touched it before. I'm not going to lie to you.
So do you care if we get your DNA to make sure?
Sure.
So we can have your DNA so we can run it against DNA to make sure it's not.
I mean, my DNA is going to be on there. You don't have to worry about it.
That's okay, just prove your side of the story.
Okay.
That's all we're trying to do. Because we got to cross our lines and dot our I's because if we don't do certain stuff, then they'll say we didn't do our job.
Right.
All right. So why did he give you the gun?
Because when he slept there, he woke me up in my sleep and said that I was having nightmares, and he asked me what it was, and I told him that I had nightmares because a police officer was going to come and kill me.
So it wasn't for Antoine, it's because you thought that officer.
I mean, it was for Antoine too.
Tell me this. Could possibly you and Antoine got into it today, and you had a gun trying to scare him, and you shot him straight?
No.
That didn't happen. possibly.
Yes.
You know.
I just can't believe that he would do. I mean, my daughter is begging. Like, I really feel like he was trying to kill me. Because he keeps on saying, he just kept on saying, it needs to be with me anyway. She needs to live with me. She don't need to live with you. All this. And kept on trying to tell me that she always says that when she's with him, she don't want to come home. And she never spoke that to me. Like, there's been times that he's tried to get her and she didn't want to go. He hasn't seen her. He just recently started seeing her again because in February he questioned her for 2 hours about who I went out to eat with on Valentine's Day because he thought it was Callie. He was me and her when we went to Wasabi's.
So between the time when the shooting happened and you called 911, the police got there. Like, what did you do?
I sat there and held the towel on my baby.
You never like went outside or tried to get rid of anything? Because that's we don't care about it. If you got some weed there and you try to get rid of it, we don't care about that. All right. I let him do this and we'll finish.
What's your date of birth, Robin?
783.
And you are consenting just for us to rub swab notes out of your sheets.
What are you doing at this point?
I'm actually taking buccal swabs, which is a rub on her cheek and just get her DNA profile.
Okay, and so at this point in her story, she's saying that she did not put that gun outside. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm going to take 2 steps, okay?
There's a couple things not bad enough. One is there's no person. We can't find that boy. 2, there's no case. You know, there's one book, one ship. Right? No, that's fine. You didn't by any chance pick up.
No, I was trying to, I was in shock. Like, my daughter was saying he was pouring blood out of her chest. And my baby was screaming.
So, if I told you that if by chance their video and it's showing you and going outside talking, showing you come back outside, move your house, move your car, and it shows you come back outside again, would you believe that I was telling you the truth?
Yes, sir. Would you
you believe? So if I told you that this video of you coming out there dropping it outside, would you believe that?
Yes.
Because that happened then.
Yeah, because I didn't want it in the house.
Okay. But then remember when I said, what did you do? Is there anything you got rid of? Why couldn't you say that? When we had that conversation in the hallway, what did I ask? I just asked you to be honest. That's all I asked you. I thought you were being honest, but apparently you're still not being honest. So you have left some stuff out. So before you call 911,
No, after.
So after you called 911, what did you do?
I took the gun and put it outside.
Where was the gun at?
It was in the closet in my bedroom.
Okay. So why did you think to get the gun and come and put it outside?
Because I didn't want to be charged with having a gun.
Detective Riddle, you heard the defense attorney say that the reason that the defendant took the gun outside is because she wanted to be safe. Is that correct?
Correct, something similar. I don't
Is
verbatim.
Is that what she said here? She was taking it out for the safety of her children?
No.
It's not illegal. Gun in your home is not illegal.
I didn't know that.
You got a felony?
No, sir.
It's not illegal. Okay, now let's try something else. You were at the house. There were no case. What happened to the case?
I don't know. I really don't have a clue. I really do not have a clue. I swear to God on my son is living.
Okay, so the gun that we found outside, that Kelly gave you, we test fired that gun. It's not going to match anything with Destiny.
No.
Have you ever even shot a gun before?
No.
So you don't know how to use a gun?
No.
So what's the chances that you were scared today, you had the gun, and you shot by mistake?
No.
That didn't happen?
No, sir.
You never got the gun until after you called 911 and you thought that you'd get in trouble for that.
Right.
So you're sticking with the fact that Antoine did this?
Yes.
Surely God, you would not blame this on somebody that don't be
No.
true. Because you brought us in.
Right.
Now we're scratching our head.
Right.
Because you ain't been telling us the whole truth. That's all I've asked you for the whole time.
Right.
But do you know this thing seem like to me? You more worried about self-preservation than anything else.
What does that mean?
You worry about saving yourself more than anything else. That's all I've been
I mean, I
getting.
have a son to raise. That is also his sister.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand. You got another side you got to worry about, right? But you also have one that needs justice for what happened to you. And if it was something you did that was a mistake, then we need to know that because mistakes happen. We understand that. I don't think for a second you would maliciously shoot your child.
No.
I would hope that they know one would actually do that.
No.
But when you keep on giving us reasons to doubt it, it's not helping out your cause. And you continue to give us reasons to doubt it, right? Started with the phone. Then you just wouldn't, you lied about the car color. You lied about the person there. Then you lied about a gun. You weren't going to tell us any of that stuff until we figured it out and brought it up to you. Like you understand that you're making this a really difficult case, right?
Well, it's not, I don't think we get the prosecution off.
Because I don't even know who we able to prosecute now.
Because you're not a witness.
Because you gave us so many jumbled up stories.
I mean, you're telling the truth.
I'm just going to be straight up with you.
Is that gun the murder weapon? I'm just asking. If it is, tell us it is. If it's the weapon he used now and you took it outside, tell me the truth. Is it the murder weapon? Because I think we've got ballistics and we're going to be able to tell. I want you to hear it from your mouth. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Do you want this thing?
Yes, and he wiped it off.
Do you want this thing? Do you want this to go in front of a jury of people and you look like some uncaring?
No.
Because I'm telling you, but listen, I'm gonna tell you what you look like right now. You look like you're very uncaring, and the only thing that matters to you is you. That's what you look like. I would like to think if I was in your position, I don't care if it was my mama that came in there and shot my kid. I'm telling any and everything. You're not doing that. Everything we've got from you, we've had to pull out of you. You have not freely given us anything. Somebody that wants justice and wants something done, they would be giving us all the info we need. They would be saying, yes, check my phone. I don't care if it's weed in there. I told you we don't care about weed. We're not trying to hear you up. You'd be saying, this is what happened. Guess he had a gun. He threw it over there. Or I took it over there. You'd be telling us all this stuff. You would get it out. Listen, you would get it all out there.
Because it's gonna come up at some point, and you're gonna have to answer it. So get it all out there so we can work through it. So now you tell us he knew where the gun was at. So there's more to the story, so you haven't told us the whole thing.
And he hadn't run this by you. I'm just going to run it by you and tell you the truth again. At 8:42, you are seen on video taking that gun out. 8 minutes later, you call 911. We got the transcripts. You're covering up. This is not good. What's going on here? Tell me, please, God, Lord, sweet baby Jesus, you are not lying on this young man.
Self-preservation, I mean, it's human. Nobody wants to look at it as they're a bad person. Even if something happened and it wasn't on purpose. So I understand that. But you got to own up to stuff at some point, right? And all you've done is cast doubt on everything he told us. He told us, we see you outside about 8 minutes before you call 911.
That's not good.
That's not good. That's not good.
We can't sell this to jurors.
We'll be able to pull all of this out. There's more to this than what you're telling us.
You see, I see a different change in you right now. You went to crime mode, to he did it crime mode. Now you're thinking, the wheels are turning. Oh Lord, what am I going to do? I mean, this is where I'm an emotional wreck just listening to it. Because I was thinking, yes, we're going to put some motherfucker in jail. And now we're thinking, holy shit, did she kill her child?
No, I did not kill my baby.
How are we supposed to believe it?
Oh, what
Explain.
I don't know.
Can you explain why you're seeing one run outside and then 8 minutes later call it 911?
No, I called 911 first.
I don't know.
Yes, I did.
We're gonna get the video, but I'm pretty sure it shows you outside at 9:40 or 8:42. The 911 call was placed at 8:50.
Okay, and so this information that you're relaying to Ms. Howington, where are you getting that information?
I'm getting it from officers on scene. The timeline is off. We do have an accurate account. We did get the 911 records. I was off on my time. That's my bad. So, but now we do have the accurate. There's the only thing that we've made right is the accurate time frame,
Okay.
chronological order.
So let's go ahead and let's talk through that right now. You were in the courtroom obviously when that video was played that had the spider web in the corner and it was of the neighbor's house. Is that correct?
I did not have access to it during this interview, but I was able to gain access of it at some point.
And have you reviewed the times when cars arrive and when people arrive?
Yes.
All right. So I want to walk through. Can you tell this jury the first time that a vehicle arrives at that home? What time is that?
The first vehicle arrives at the home at 8 o'clock and 8:29 and 38 seconds. That's the first arrival. You see the headlights come into that driveway that's on the street.
Okay, so 8:29:38 is when that car arrives. Does that car then leave?
It leaves at 8:31:08.
At some point in time, does either the same car or another car arrive at the house in front of the house?
A car arrives back in front of 502 Balsam at 8:41:04 seconds.
Is there any way for you to tell if it's the same vehicle or a different vehicle, or is that something that's unknown?
I can't tell.
And so after that, after we see the car arrive, the second event at 8:41:04, what happens next?
You'll see Miss Howington pull into her driveway at 8:42 and 23 seconds.
Okay. What happens next?
And then at 8:43 and 28 seconds, the lights turn on, and you see her, Destiny, and Gavin go into the house.
Okay. And Destiny walks in first.
Yes, correct.
And then she's followed quickly thereafter by Miss Howington, who is carrying Gavin. Is that correct?
Yes. Can I make one point in there? The person is in her driveway. She drives past. She sees the car. It's obvious to me. I mean, you'll have the video. She knows that I don't know if she knows the person that's in the car, but she observes that car. She parks right in front of it. Or behind it, one of the two.
So after Destiny goes inside and Miss Howington and Gavin go inside, is there a point in time where that door opens again?
At 8:46:05, I believe she goes back to the front door and she motions for somebody to come into the house.
Now, in that video that we've watched, is there a point in time when somebody leaves the vehicle that had been sitting in front of the car and walks into the house?
At 8:46:35, that individual from that car that's parked there before her arrival walks into that residence.
Okay. And then what happens next?
Then at a minute later, roughly 8:46:43, that same individual walks back out of the house, gets into his car, and leaves. 8:46:43. He's seen exiting the house.
Did he come in again?
He come in at 8:46:35.
Say that one more time.
Well, let's see. I mean, my time's here. Maybe I'll.
When the individual enters the house, I've written it wrong right here, so I just want to make sure.
Okay. The individual enters the house at 8:46:43.
Okay. And then the individual exits the house
At 8:47:47.
Sorry. Okay, then I did have it right. 8:47:47. All right. So total inside the house of that individual is 63 seconds. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. What is the next thing that happens?
Miss Howington then exits her home and goes out to her car at 8:48:23.
And what do you see in the video that Miss Howington does with her car?
It looks like at 8:48:52, her lights turn on.
Okay.
And then at 8:48:55, she moves her car where that car is, where the person's car is parked.
Okay. And then what happens next?
At 8:50:15, she goes back into her home.
Okay. So she's outside the home doing the thing where she's moving her car for approximately 1 minute and 52 seconds. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. We heard earlier about the 911 call. You said you later got that record. What is the time of the 911 call?
It was 8:53. And there might have been a few seconds on it. Whatever the 911 chronological would have that documented.
So 8:53 is when the 911 calls happens. Is there a point in time when Miss Howington exits the home again, and this is the point in time where we believe she's moving the gun?
At 8:53:53, she exits that house. You can see her come off that porch into near that bush area.
Okay. And then when does she re-enter the home?
She re-enters the home at 8:54:17.
Okay. And then is there a point in time when the first officer arrives on the scene?
You saw on that video, Officer Cummings comes in with his lights on at 8:56:15.
And then is there a point in time where you can see him leave with Destiny?
He leaves with her at 8:58:20.
Let those be filed collectively as 18.
I'm going to continue Exhibit 15.
Minutes after the fact. But you know what? We can't verify that. You know why? Because if we can pull your phone up and see what she called right here at this time, you knew that, don't you? You knew that your phone was a key factor in this mess, and that's why you wanted to try to get it off. You're trying to give some innocent lady over at UT Hospital who don't want to catch it from apple butter. And you stuck it in the toilet. Run water or whatever the hell you did to it. Okay, well, let's try this. We'll go back to your story, because you said he knew where the gun was. So where were you going from there? When you said he knew where the gun was?
He knew where the gun was because he came in my room one day when he just showed up and he seen it in the closet when I was getting my clothes out to get dressed.
Okay, so how does that factor into tonight?
That's where you went from it from.
So you tell.
Detective Riddle, at this point in the interview, Ms. Howington is saying that Antoine got the gun out of the closet. Is that correct?
That's how I'm taking it, that he went into her closet and got the gun.
Is that the story she's going to say later?
No.
When he got that gun, and that's the gun he used.
He threw it down after he shot his child. And you picked it up, and you took it out to the bush, and you've done something possibly with the shell casing.
No, I touched
So it's probably somewhere in your house.
Yes.
And it's possible. Why would you tamper with that evidence?
I didn't want to get in trouble.
Look, 2 times you tamper with evidence. People that are innocent don't tamper with evidence. 2 different times. You're on video. Put the gun outside. Your gun that you're now telling us that your daughter was killed with. See how this thing don't look good for you?
Yes, I do.
You see how all your lies ain't doing nothing but just making it, just building on it and building on it and making it worse?
You know why you don't want us calling your mama? You're probably scared what mama's going to think about this mess too.
Oh, no, my mom feeling bad in heart.
Well, we're not gonna, that's on you. That's on you. You need to get Jesus in your heart. Because there's a lot of lying going on. And right now, you act like you're part of the devil. I mean, I don't understand you. I may cuss and carry on. I'm a God-fearing man. You're going to go to hell if you don't get your heart right. Does that matter to you? Do you want to be here on free and raise that 2-year-old child you've got? Because there's no way in hell that I'm going to charge him with this murder, with the way you've done it, with what you said tonight. I think what the case we've got is on you. And it's bad.
Was it a mistake?
If it's a mistake, tell us it's a mistake. If it's an accident, you don't know nothing about guns, it happens all effing time. Something's happened.
All right.
Did you accidentally shoot your child?
No.
Well, then what happened?
Daddy got over the gun. So it's not true. Daddy told us there.
How are we supposed to believe that?
I guess you did.
Why would you not say that initially?
Because it's my baby. I don't know
We don't charge 2-year-old babies, so we don't charge 2.
You think we're going to charge a 2-year-old?
No, but I mean,
How would Gavin get a hold of the gun if it's in the closet?
because he's messy. He pulled a
Where?
chair and it was in the closet because he puts on my high heels.
Do you understand? Hold on, Brandon, I'm going to stop in the middle of this. Have you ever heard a forensic interview with a child? You know that young man's going to be questioned. It won't be by me. It won't be by him. It's going to be by professionals. Is he going to say he shot his sister? Because kids don't lie usually. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, it's even worse. Now you're bringing your 2-year-old child in
No,
this
he
mix.
did it. He got the fucking gun. I said, man, I just didn't, I didn't do it. Antoine was there. We were arguing, and I feel like my son was trying to protect us.
Okay, I'm going to have to talk to Antoine tonight. Do you know where I can find him?
No.
You blame any and everybody you can, but your actions have shown that the only person you're trying to protect is you.
I did not kill my baby. There's no reason.
This thing, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. This thing's going to get solved, right? Be it you had the gun, Antoine had the gun, Gavin had the gun. If it comes down to you had the gun like this is pointing to, you're going to look like the most non-caring, self-centered person that has ever come across in front of a jury.
This is,
I want to believe that, but you have not given us a reason to.
you know, if it's still, what I believe right now, I think we're doing enough right now, reckless homicide on everybody, except for the 2-year-old.
You and him both.
You and him both. Reckless homicide. We're not going to put anything on your 2-year-old child. Because I don't know if I can believe you or not.
I can't believe nothing to come out of that. You tell me right now I'm a black man wearing blue pants, I'm going to question it. I can't believe nothing to come out of your mouth right now. I've given you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to tell the truth. You can't seem to do it. Like, what is the reason? What is the reason you cannot tell the truth?
It makes me look like a bad parent that here my daughter is dead and her daddy was
Ain't nobody judging you, your parenting right now. Let me explain something to you again. This is the third floor. This is violent crimes. We deal with rape, robbery, murder, assaults, intimidation, stuff like that. We don't care what kind of parent you are. We don't care if you sell weed. I don't care if you smoke enough fucking weed to get the whole city high. I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about the dead little girl. And I care about why you keep lying about it. Because if you cared, you would tell us the truth.
I just told you the truth.
You told us the truth before that. How many truths are there?
You know when your life started? 911.
Why do you say that?
You go back and listen to the recording. You said it was a black Charger. Chrysler or black, blue, whatever you call it. It wasn't black or blue, it was white. That's the first lie. And then it's been a spiral downhill ever since. An innocent person does not lie. They tell the truth. Because you know why? It's easy to remember the truth. It's hard to remember a lie.
I'm in here feeling sorry for you, thinking you're a grieving mother.
I am a grieving mother. My baby.
You ain't acting like it. You ain't acting like it. You ain't acting like it at all.
What do you want to see done about what happened tonight?
Only thing you worried about is getting the hell out of here.
Or you think that 2-year-old baby's going to get to go home with you tonight? I told you there's other agencies involved in this mess now. And I mean, my conscience will not dare allow me to let that little boy. I'd have to tell him the truth.
I'm still under the assumption that you did.
I hope not. I sure to God hope
Well,
not.
if you keep talking, you're going to blame it on somebody else.
Hell, you want to blame it on my dog? She's at home in bed, I hope. This is crazy.
How about this? Okay. We'll give you one more chance to tell the complete, honest, total truth.
Or
one
not.
chance. No. Hold on. Don't start yet. One chance. You start lying. We're getting up, walking out of this damn room. We're done with you. We'll go get on the phone. We're going to figure out what's going to happen with this thing. Who's going to jail, where the game's going, all that good stuff. But we ain't dealing with no more damn lies. You ought to be damn lied up by now.
He told us there when I got there. He was irate because of whatever reason. He's always irate. And he came in the house. He was screaming and hollering. I had him in the room. He pulls chairs up and got in the closet, and he had the gun. And as me and Antoine were arguing, he had the gun, and he was shot to his foot.
Where was this? Yeah.
Laying on the couch.
Where's the gun located in your closet?
It was like on the top shelf.
So a 2-year-old.
He got the chair. He gets a chair. He will climb on anything in my house.
I don't think he's tall enough to
He ain't tall enough.
He ain't tall enough to get a direct shot like that was input in her. That couch is that high, Robin. Do we want to do measurements? His little arms are not high enough to get up above her to shoot straight down in her. I disagree with you on that.
So you telling me he shot his sister, and now you want to put him through these forensic interviews?
I wish you would, because it's the truth.
If it's the truth, why didn't you say it from the beginning?
Because, I mean, that's my baby. It's like, I was in shock when this shit happened.
You think we're going to go over there to the neighbor's house and get him and put him in cuffs and take him to jail? Is that what you think we're going to do? then so why would you lie and want to put that man in jail if he is a grieving parent also?
He's the reason why they caused it, because he was the one that was screaming.
He's not the reason to cause it. He ain't the reason to cause it. He didn't give Gavin the fucking gun. If he is a grieving parent also, why would you lie on this man and try to get us to put him in jail for murdering his own child?
Because he was there acting a fool.
It's not murder. It's not what you said.
That's still not.
It's not what you said.
If he wouldn't have came, that would have been.
But that's not what you told us. You told us that he came in there and shot.
Well, you're exactly
Well,
right.
I'm sorry. We pulled it out of you.
You told 911 that some guy, black guy, comes into your house and shoots and kills your daughter.
Put it on my baby.
So first you put it on a random black guy, then you put it on her dad. So yeah, we're up to 3 people you put this on. A random black guy and a black 300, then her own dad. Now it's Gavin.
But if her dad wouldn't have been there, then it's bad.
But you know who it all points to? You.
Can't you do gun residue on my hands?
You already put your hand in the damn toilet to get the phone out.
No.
So how the phone get wet?
Come on, Robin.
It's in the sink.
Okay, you washed your hands. You've got your hands wet.
You just put the phone in water and sink.
That's just to destroy it.
Probably because after it happened, you probably text or talk to Antoine or Kathy. And you didn't want us to see that. So you got rid of it. Right?
Unfortunately, there's data still on that phone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it says it. It says.
Then you got rid of a gun. Innocent people don't do that. You know who all this shit's pointing to? Who's it pointing at?
You think it's me, but I know it's not.
I don't think. I'm telling you what the evidence is pointing at.
Why would I kill my own daughter?
The same. Why would he? Why would he do it?
Now the little boy.
If he came over here to my house, acted a fool, nothing would happen.
I just thank God there's good video because we'd have charged some innocent black guy tonight. That's racism in my book.
I'm gonna be racist now.
I mean, you're blaming it on a black guy.
You blame it on a random black
Random black guy
Black
first.
guy is my baby daddy who came over after the fucking fool for no damn reason.
You
and stole
blamed it
my
on.
kids.
Well, you didn't tell us it was your baby daddy at first. You said it was a black guy in a black guy in a black 300. So we looking for a totally different black guy. Then we figure out, well, they got a pretty bad past, so maybe it's him. So maybe it's him and her. Then you blame it on him. Then we find video of you doing all other shit, and you blame it on the baby.
And you know what?
It's like every time we catch you in the lie, and we can back it up, hey, we got evidence it's a lie, what do? You change it. And so I feel like when we take Gavin, and he does his interview, and he says he didn't shoot his sister, you're going to back that up, you're going to come with another.
No,
So I'd much rather you just go ahead and tell us now and say
he
something.
did. He fucking did, man. He was scared. Antoine was fucking flipping out.
So what did Antoine do after Gavin shot his daughter?
He walked straight out the house.
So this dude is irate as fuck, always trying to fight you, fighting your boyfriend, sees his daughter get shot, and he don't do nothing but leave. Does that make any kind of logical sense to you?
I guess he thought he was going to be blamed because of our guys.
You did blame him. I mean, you did.
I mean, it is his fucking fault in my eyes because he shouldn't have came to my house acting a fucking fool, and nothing would ever happen.
So I'm gonna tell you what we got. So we got a gun that you said is the murder weapon. It's going to have your DNA on it in your house.
And my sons, because my son.
Then why don't you tell us that Antoine wiped it off?
Because he did.
You are so deep in this shit right now. You don't know which way is which.
I didn't see him
I won't believe you. But if you had just came out and told me all this from the beginning, I probably could. But now I can't. We were getting ready to go put a first degree murder warrant on that dude. Do you understand? Do you understand what that is?
Do you think you deserve first degree? If you think he does, do you think you deserve? Okay. No, he doesn't.
He is a grieving parent also. If what you're telling us happened this last rendition, if that accident happened, he's a grieving parent. He saw his daughter get shot. For the life of me, I can't understand why he was just turning him walk away. From everything he told us, I don't think he turned and walked away. I don't even think he was in there when it happened.
I'm sorry,
I don't think he was there when it happened. I think he was already gone.
I think he was gone.
I think he had left. I think you got that gun. You shot that baby.
No, I
That's
did
why
not.
your ass tried to hide.
No, I did not. Why would
That's
I
why-
shoot my own daughter? What the fuck? Who does that?
Well, that's what you just said he did. Okay, how about this? So, we'll get Gavin, you know he'll do the interview. How about,
He's smart as hell, so.
okay, but would you be willing to do a lie detector test?
Yes.
And I,
Yes.
Saying that you ain't the one shot,
Yes.
and that you didn't pick up no shell case and get rid of it.
Yes, sir.
And then Gavin somehow, 2 years old, put a chair up there, got to the top of the closet, and got a gun,
Yes.
and shot.
Detective Riddle, even though Ms. Howington said she would take a lie detector about this, does that turn out to be a story that she changes as well?
It does.
With the next one there, yes.
And then we go get Antoine, he's gonna tell us the same thing.
I don't know what he might say.
If it's the truth, he should tell us the truth, right?
I don't know what he might say.
Or is Antoine gonna say, me and her argued, I had left, I don't know what happened today, because I think that's what's gonna happen.
how does that little baby know where the gun's at?
I can't answer
Do you think
that.
it's your responsibility as an adult?
All right, Mr. Elliott, I want to just back up for a brief moment, and I want to go back to any concerns you had about the projectile not matching the gun. I'm not sure that I fully understand what your concerns are in that regard. Would you articulate them for us again?
Yes, I was referring to the concerns that a detective would have upon arriving at scene. You don't have at the time, the results of lab testing. So, and you have nothing guaranteed.
What do you mean, nothing guaranteed?
Well, at the time, you had some people saying this is the gun, but you didn't have any evidence, scientific evidence, show that was the gun, which was later found to be true. I'm just talking about, you have so many variables and so many unknowns that you can only use interviews on the scene to confirm and deny things. One person saying this is the gun, that may very well be the gun. But you have to see if someone else can verify that. Later on you're going to have lab results, not at the time. And that's what I was referring to, is at the time, at the scene on October 21st.
So what's your concern then about the investigation that the Sheriff's Department did with regard to the gun? Is your testimony that after Ms. Gutierrez identified the gun to Lieutenant Benavides and handed him the gun, there should have been more follow-up with regard to whether or not that was really the gun? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because she's not the one that handed the gun to Mr. Baldwin. There are people in between that process. So
Continue, sir. I apologize.
all right. Again, pieces of information come out as they're going through both processing the scene and interviewing people. And now we know that there is some time delay between the firearm being loaded, the firearm being on the cart, the firearm making it to Mr. Baldwin inside the church. And that's what I meant by the investigation at the time. A lot of information is coming out over months. Some information has come much later.
But you agree with me that Ms. Gutierrez handed Lieutenant Benavides the gun and said, this is the gun that was being used. And when she said that, she had been identified as the armorer on the movie set. You agree with that?
I do.
And you also agree that, not surprisingly, that turned out to be the gun. You agree with that?
Oh, I do, yes.
So, any potential issues with regard to that specific concern of yours didn't turn out to be issues. There's no issue. You agree with that? This is the gun that fired that projectile.
Correct, yes.
Okay. When we left off, there was an objection, and I'm going to go through with you. You were talking about the ammo boxes. I think that was where the objection was. So, as the investigator in this case, have you reviewed all of the body-worn camera footage?
I have. There's a lot.
So have I.
Yes.
I'm sympathetic to the exhausted look on your face. I'm going to show you what has been marked as what is already in evidence as State's Exhibit 192. Sir, have you seen this exhibit?
I have.
And you agree with me that this is Lieutenant Benavides is pointing to the box that Ms. Gutierrez identified as the box that she was pulling ammunition from. Do you agree with that?
He is pointing to a box of ammunition, yes.
Are you indicating that you believe that the box here in this picture was not the box that she was pulling ammunition from?
No, I'm not. There were two boxes, and I don't know if it was clearly delineated to him which of the two boxes was where the ammo was drawn from.
Well, you understood that the gun was loaded with dummies, or was supposed to be loaded with dummies at the time of the incident, right?
Right.
And you also understand that this was the only box of dummies on the cart. You understand that, right?
Yes.
The other boxes were blanks, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Gutierrez said to Lieutenant Benavides, "This is the box I was pulling from," right?
Yes.
You don't think that Ms. Gutierrez meant to say I was pulling from a box of blanks when the gun was loaded with supposed dummies, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. State's Exhibit 62. Have you seen this photo?
I probably have hundreds of photos of white boxes, but I can't specifically say this photo.
Does the box on the left, does that label look familiar to you in your investigation in this case?
It does.
So, based on your investigation, do you have any reason to believe that the box that Ms. Gutierrez pointed out to Lieutenant Benavides is not this box that he took and placed in his unit?
I do not. And I believe that photo is taken in the unit, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I can see the seat.
State's Exhibit 63. You understand that this is a photo of that exact same box when it was taken into evidence at the Sheriff's Department, right?
Yes, that's how it's labeled, yes.
I'm not asking how it's labeled. You've reviewed the evidence at the evidence room, right?
Yes.
And you've reviewed all the photographs that were taken on scene.
Yes.
Let me ask you, isn't it true that there was only one box found with this label? Isn't that correct?
That I don't know.
You're the defense investigator on this case, right?
Yes.
Have you seen photographs of a box that looks like this, but is loaded with something other than what this box was loaded with? Sir, do you have any reason to believe that there were two boxes with this label that were taken into evidence?
I do not know.
State's Exhibit 69. Have you seen this photo?
Again, I've seen dozens of photos. So.
Well, you're here to give an opinion about the investigation on this case. Are you not familiar with this photograph?
Specifically, no.
Okay. Did you watch the interview in November that Ms. Gutierrez gave to Detective Hancock?
I did.
And do you recall during that interview, Ms. Gutierrez holds up her phone and says, "This is a picture of our dummies," meaning the dummies that she would bring on the set. Do you recall that?
I do recall that, yes.
Isn't this the photo that she showed? You don't know?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. You weren't watching the testimony of our expert, Mr. Hawks, when he laid the foundation for this and indicated that this photograph was sent from a contact in her phone named Dad Kula to her the day before the interview with Detective Hancock. Were you not aware of that?
I was not, no.
So, sir, based on Ms. Gutierrez's statements, would it be her own statements to law enforcement, would it be reasonable for law enforcement to believe that State's Exhibit 62, this box here in the foreground, is indeed the box she was pulling from because she said that? Wouldn't that be reasonable for law enforcement to believe that?
Yes, it would.
And you understand that that box was determined to have a live round?
Yes.
And you agree with me that that box that had the live round matches this photo that was shown to Detective Hancock during the November 9th interview? You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Sir, do you still have questions and concerns about how the live rounds got on set?
I do.
You don't think that law enforcement can simply take Ms. Gutierrez's word for it, that this is her box and this is the one she was pulling from and this is the one where live rounds were found?
Yes, but what we don't know is how many times those boxes were unloaded and reloaded. Every time that one of the firearms were loaded with dummy rounds, they came out of a box. They didn't necessarily go back into the same box.
Do you agree with me, sir, that there are certain things in homicide investigations that just simply can't be controlled for? You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Sir, what's the smallest police department you've ever worked for?
Albuquerque PD.
You agree with me that the Albuquerque Police Department is approximately 10 times the size of the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department with regard to the number of commissioned officers?
I am. I think Albuquerque is around 850, and I think Santa Fe's 120, 130, something like that.
Okay. More than 8 times.
Right.
You agree with that math?
I do.
Have you ever worked on a homicide investigation on a movie set?
I have not.
Do you agree with me that normally in homicide investigations, police aren't concerned with where the live ammo came from? This case is unique in that regard, isn't it?
This case is unique from the beginning, yes.
Okay, it is,
Yes.
right? It's unique from the beginning. So police officers, you would agree, are not trained in how to investigate homicides on movie sets where they're not supposed to have live rounds, they're supposed to have fake rounds. Cops aren't trained in that, right?
Specifically, no.
Okay. And you agree with me, don't you, that Lieutenant Benavides can't just let Ms. Gutierrez walk around the movie set with a firearm that appears to have just shot 2 people. You agree with that?
Oh, I do agree with that with reference to firearm, yes.
Yeah. It was incumbent on Lieutenant Benavides to remove that firearm from her possession, correct?
From anyone's possession, yes.
And you just take issue with the fact that he didn't put a glove on before he did it.
Basically, yes.
But you agree that the fact that he didn't put a glove on didn't turn out to create any significant evidentiary issues in this case, because everybody knew who was holding the gun and everybody knew who shot the gun. You agree with that?
I do.
And sir, you also agree with me, don't you, that a police officer's first responsibility is to save human lives, not collect evidence?
Correct, as I stated, yes.
And do you recall that Ms. Gutierrez was actually checked by EMTs when she was sitting in the back of Lieutenant Benavides's patrol unit?
Yes, I did see that.
And you agree that she was allowed to make phone calls?
Yes, she was.
I think you indicated that you talked a little bit about that Detective Hancock sort of took possession of Ms. Gutierrez. Do you recall the statement that you made in that regard?
I do.
So I want to ask you, and one of the examples you gave was that Detective Hancock even accompanied Ms. Gutierrez to the restroom, right?
Yes, she did.
But in watching the body-worn camera footage, isn't it true that Sergeant Christopher Zook tells Detective Hancock, she doesn't want to go to the bathroom alone, will you take her to the bathroom? Ms. Gutierrez actually asks to be accompanied to the bathroom. Do you recall that?
I do.
And do you agree with me that it was Ms. Gutierrez who asked to be placed in Detective Hancock's patrol unit? That wasn't something that the police just unilaterally did with her.
No, she did. She did ask.
Is there a problem with them granting her request that she be accompanied to the bathroom?
No, but I didn't think that included going into the bathroom with her. Can I elaborate?
Sure.
I believe she stated something along the lines of she didn't want to talk to anyone from production. So it's kind of like if she was with Detective Hancock, she wouldn't be approached by any of her coworkers. I think that was her intention of being escorted. But I didn't think it included going into the bathroom itself.
Well, she went into the bathroom and she had her back turned to Ms. Gutierrez. What's the big deal? Ms. Gutierrez asked for an escort. How did that hurt the investigation?
Hurt the investigation?
Yeah.
It did not.
Now, Ms. Gutierrez stayed on set and she was sitting in a police car with the door open and there was a coworker of hers sitting in there visiting with her. You agree with that?
Yes, I do.
And she had her phone. You agree with that?
Yes.
She was allowed to make phone calls.
Yes.
She was never placed in handcuffs. You agree with that?
Correct.
So what's problematic about that? How was she mistreated by police?
I didn't say she was mistreated. It was every appearance of not being free to leave. I based that on the fact that when Lieutenant Benavides would step away from his vehicle, he would tell a deputy to keep an eye on her. If she's free to leave and she's just sitting in the back of the unit with an open door, she should be allowed to walk away if she wanted to. It gives the impression that she is in custody when you're not free from constant observation from law enforcement.
Well, but isn't it true that she seemed to be having a panic attack, and it was appropriate for Lieutenant Benavides, when he walked away, to ask another officer to keep an eye on her, to make sure she's okay? Isn't that true?
At that time, she appeared fine.
Did she? Is that a yes?
That's a yes.
So, was it your expectation that Mr. Baldwin should have been detained? Do you believe that they should have detained him?
I do.
And do you believe that they should have put him in a police car and taken his phone away?
Not necessarily placed in a police car, but he should have been segregated from the other witnesses, and his phone should have been taken to preserve evidence.
Don't you agree with me that there has to be probable cause that there may be evidence on the phone before the phone can be taken?
But they wouldn't know if there was going to be evidence on the phone without interviewing him. There was no other way to know whether there was evidence on that phone or not. But he was on the phone when law enforcement arrived, so who was he talking to?
Well, did you look at his call logs?
That's after the fact. I'm talking about when deputies arrived at the scene.
Okay, I appreciate that, but what I'm trying to figure out is what about your concerns actually turned out to be real issues with the investigation? What evidence was missing or hidden by Mr. Baldwin? What evidence do you have?
We don't have the full contents of his phone.
Has the defense filed any kind of a motion in this case to try to get the full contents of his phone?
That I don't know.
And you understand, though, that a full extraction of Mr. Baldwin's phone was done in New York, but we were given a limited report. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
And you also understand that originally the same thing happened with Ms. Gutierrez. A limited report was generated from a full extraction, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you agree with me that defense counsel is free to issue subpoenas and file motions to compel and do all of those things in a case if they feel that they're missing evidence?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So do you think that it would have been appropriate then for law enforcement to take Ms. Gutierrez's phone away from her and not let her make a phone call to her mother?
That can be monitored also. I've seen it done both ways. I've seen them taken away where they're not allowed to make any phone calls, and I've also seen where they've been able to make a call in the presence of law enforcement.
Sir, generally in your experience as a law enforcement officer, do you usually continue to investigate an individual for a crime after you have, let's say for months, after you have been unable to develop a single lead that that person was involved? Do you need me to rephrase that question?
I think I understand your question. You're saying, do you continue an investigation of someone that you have no information?
Yeah, right. You looked, you executed a search warrant, you interviewed the person numerous times, and you just simply don't have any evidence that they were involved. At some point, don't they just not become a suspect anymore?
I don't know if that's the correct phrase, but your investigation is over. You've taken the investigation as far as you can go.
Right.
Right.
So at some point with Mr. Kinney, they executed a search warrant, they interviewed him numerous times, and they didn't come up with anything. So what do you think they should have done to continue?
At that point, there wasn't much further they could go.
And, sir, are you aware that The FBI will not do DNA testing on rounds, whether they're spent or unspent. Were you aware of that?
I heard about it in this case, but they have done DNA testing on casings, unspent casings.
Well, weren't you present? Were you present for a pretrial interview of the DNA expert in this case?
I was.
And you heard her during the interview state that they won't do this kind of DNA testing, correct?
I did.
All right. And you agree with me, sir, that police officers, when they arrived on scene, they knew immediately who the shooter was?
I think that information arrived shortly after the first deputies arrived, but it was before the lieutenant arrived. There's a little lag there, but not much time at all.
Okay, and Mr. Baldwin didn't leave the scene, did he?
He did not.
You testified on direct examination that there was a person who left the scene that was never identified. Do you recall making that statement?
I did, and that was based on what came out of some of the interviews. I don't quite recall. I think the lieutenant asked if we had everybody. And
What lieutenant are you talking
Lieutenant
about?
Benavides.
Okay.
And one of the deputies responded with one left. And I think he asked who that was, and the deputy didn't know.
But you know, don't you? Because you interviewed him and you asked him. Didn't you interview Reed Russell? And when you interviewed Reed Russell, he told you that he left so that he could go to the hospital to be with his close friends. And before he left, he gave all of his contact information to the police. You interviewed him. Do you recall that?
I did.
Do you need to see a copy of the interview?
I don't.
And you also understand that Mr. Russell, who left the scene to go to the hospital, was interviewed the very next day by Detective Cano. Aren't you aware of that?
I am, yes.
So what's the mystery? Who's the mystery man that left the set? He was identified, right? Correct?
Mr. Russell was identified, but I was never quite clear if it was the same individual.
Even though you asked him and he said, I'm the guy that left the set to go to the hospital?
Yes, but did he know he was the only one who left?
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. I'll pass the witness.
Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Elliott, you're aware from all your experience in law enforcement that it is the government's burden to prove in any criminal case, correct? And that burden never shifts to the defendant.
That's correct, yes.
So when you were asked earlier about why the defense didn't file motions and do subpoenas, isn't that law enforcement and the government's job to prove their case?
Objection.
Mr. Elliott, do you recall that question?
I do.
Okay, and is it always the government's burden to prove their case, to prove in a criminal case?
It is.
Okay. Now, if law enforcement doesn't timely and appropriately obtain evidence, does that sometimes impact an entire investigation?
It can.
For example, in your experience as a homicide detective and working in civilian and military law enforcement, if you delay a search warrant for a month, can that materially impact a case?
It can.
And in your experience, have you seen times when there's been that kind of delay where evidence goes missing?
I have.
You talked earlier about the FBI and other cases you had been aware of where they had obtained DNA. You did not expand on that. Have you been aware of other cases in which the FBI has searched for DNA on casings?
The Las Vegas shooting.
So, based on that answer, is it your understanding they do have the capacity, the ability to do that?
They do have the ability, yes.
Earlier, you were asked a series of questions about, I'm going to categorize them as no harm, no foul. In other words, we know in hindsight now that certain things didn't happen. But in any case, homicide investigation, would you always want to start out assuming that anything can go wrong and to properly preserve that evidence?
Yes, of course.
For example, with regard to the firearm, when you testified about Lieutenant Benavides touching that firearm, would there be scenarios, not like it played out here, but where somebody else turned out to be the shooter, for example, and that firearm, it was important to know the fingerprints?
Well, of course. This investigation started with a 911 call. They are not always accurate.
And so I guess my question to you is, in your experience and your training and 13 years as homicide, were you taught and trained to preserve evidence and to take those appropriate steps in every single case?
Yes.
We were asked earlier a series of questions about Ms. Gutierrez-Reed and whether she was there voluntarily or the appearance of being detained. Did the sheriffs drive Ms. Gutierrez-Reed to the sheriff's office?
Yes, they did.
Did they drive Mr. Baldwin to the sheriff's office?
No, he drove himself and followed a deputy.
Okay. From the time that Ms. Gutierrez-Reed was in the vehicle on the set to the time of the interview, did you ever notice any period of time when she was not in law enforcement presence?
I did not.
With regard to the questions about items and boxes on the prop cart that you were asked, the 2 boxes, is it clear to you from reading the reports, everything that you reviewed in this case, what items Sarah and the other 2 individuals may have removed from the prop cart and taken to the prop truck?
No, it is not clear to me.
And based on your entire review of the whole case, has there ever been any follow-up or any information you've received that would have clarified that, what they took from the prop cart?
No, a bag, a couple long guns, I think 2 revolvers, they do know who they came from, and other items that I don't know of.
One last question. If law enforcement delays, if they do not conduct a full investigation, is it possible for the defense to lose out on evidence that may have been exculpatory?
Yes, there is.
I have no further questions.
You're excused. Thank you. Next witness.
Your Honor, we call Frank Kuski.
Stand before the judge, raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat talking to the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, sir, good afternoon. Can you please tell the jury your name again?
Frank Lewis Blair Kuski III.
Where do you currently reside?
Carmel Valley, California.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm managing director of Blair Financial Group, money managers.
I want you, outside of your management and Blair Financial, to tell the jury about your experience with period firearms.
Yes. Let me check a note to make sure dates are correct. I took part in my first movies in this, which were done with...
And I'm not talking about the movies.
I'm sorry, okay.
Yeah, let me just try to center my question.
I'm still objecting.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Kuski, if I can just direct that a little more. I want to just give the jury an overview of your experience with firearms. And not necessarily getting into movies yet, but your experience with firearms and period firearms and how you obtain that familiarity.
Do you wish for the long explanation or the short?
No, the short. Short's always better.
My father was a combat MP in the Second World War. I was shooting almost from birth. I was sent to rifle camp in Butte, Montana at age 6, which is hard to imagine. I grew up around a hunting family. My grandfather was a big-time hunter. I grew up hunting deer and pheasants with my uncle in the forests of Ohio. I had Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania hunting licenses ever since they were required. I was a member, I was a Boy Scout Riflery Merit Badge winner. I worked, was a member of the Kenyon College rifle team. Following graduation from Kenyon College, I took up firearms in a very serious way, beginning collecting and shooting. I was trained by Louis Tenenbaum, essentially right out of college, who was a member of the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit, who thought I was worth taking his time with that. I appeared in a number of little television shorts and things like that through that time period. And when I really got going on primitive firearms, and I won't even talk about self-defensive guns at this point, I was trained in combat guns. I first appeared in the George Washington television miniseries in 1984, and I was assigned my role as a surveyor in the wilderness, and of course I had my first real flintlock in my hands at that time. I, during the earlier times, had shot a lot of primitive weapons, primarily flintlocks, black powder stuff. I was very interested in that. After that, I got going and I joined a group called the 1st American Regiment in 1985, which was the premier late 18th century, early 19th century reenactors from military reenactment. And during this time, and I believe you have a nice picture of me firing cannons, I became a sergeant of artillery doing reenactment big time. And in that capacity, I appeared in lots of movies. I fired artillery. This is 18th century artillery. I fired the 1812 Overture with Cincinnati Symphony in various performances in big stadiums and things. I also, sorry for the cough, I also answered questions for NBC Nightline fairly routinely on weapons identification because, of course, I'm fairly good expert in Russian weapons and one of the largest collectors in the United States. I took part with 1st American Regiment in many different film productions, television productions, that sort of thing, which were done by PBS and I believe the History Network. These were shown at the time on television and also became educational movies, programs. They sold the rights to us, charging with bayonets to all kinds of ad agencies.
Okay, let me stop you for a second, because there's a lot of information.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But I want to ask you, in the course of that, and you've had a whole lifetime, is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
Of gun. Have you been a collector also of period type weapons?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Are you familiar with the revolver in this case, the 45 long Colt?
Absolutely.
Did you bring with you today that revolver? Not that revolver, but a revolver just like that revolver?
Yes, we would call it a sister. It is made by Pieta, the same exact company. It was nearly sequential serial numbers. It is absolutely identical. Any part would interchange, and it will look exactly like the Baldwin gun.
Did you also bring a replica gun with
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the jury just, first of all, what that is?
This is a Denex replica. Denex is a company in Spain that makes replicas of anything from shotguns to antique weapons to swords, things like that. They're used by reenactors, they're used in movies. There was a Denex revolver on the set of Rust that was used as one of the dummy guns. There were in fact 10 non-firing replica guns on the set that looked like this. So it can't shoot, but it looks like it. It functions, it cocks, the cylinder turns, and from 5 feet away you couldn't tell unless you really looked.
Okay, sir. Let me, if I can, yes, I was going to ask at this time, Your Honor, if I could tender him as an expert in the categories I previously did.
Well, why don't you state them on the record again?
I was making sure I had the exact wording. Is that okay if you wrote those down? Because I don't want to change it. Well, I'll just say it again. It's firearm identification, firearm functioning, reloading of ammunition, and identification of ammunition, of dummy rounds and live rounds.
Any objection?
No objection within the confines of what we discussed at the bench.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I understand. So, sir, if you will, I'm sorry.
For these specific areas, subject to the ruling up at the bench. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, if you will, if you could, however the deputy handles this, but if you could retrieve the firearms from behind you.
Do it in public, and I will clarify that it is not loaded. Okay, the first is a real.
Mr. Kuski, are you able to take the cylinder out so you can show everyone also that it's unloaded?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
There's something important. And here is a Denex revolver.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to object.
All right, first of all, everybody's nervous because you have not demonstrated to us that they are unloaded. So before you start showing us the weapons, make sure they're unloaded, including that one that you just touched.
Okay, Mr. Kusi, I want to make sure that, first of all, the Denix is the replica that's non-firing. That is obviously clear, it cannot fire, correct?
Yes, I wish to demonstrate.
Okay, but and just let me lead the questions.
Sure.
The other Pieta, you cleared with the deputy, but I want you to be able to take that cylinder out so we can show everyone it's clear. Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Gun is pointed in the safe direction. Now, if we can get this pin out, the cylinder is retained. Cylinder is retained by a pin. Once that pin is removed, the gun may be put in a partially cocked position. The cylinder may be pushed out, and again, the barrel's safe. You can look right straight through it. Sir, would you take that and show them all? It's empty. Is that acceptable?
It's up to the court.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
No, the deputy is not involved in this case.
Okay. And so,
It is empty. I demonstrated it's empty.
Okay.
May I return it to the
Yes.
firearm?
Okay, sir. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, comparing the Denix, the replica, to the real, the Pieta, do they share some of the same characteristics?
Yes, they do.
And can you tell the jury, is the Denix made to look like the Pieta?
Absolutely.
And side by side, if you can, and Your Honor, may he step down to show the jury?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, if you can show them the Pieta and the Denix side by side, just so they can see.
This is a Denix. It is a replica, totally unfiring with a block barrel. It functions completely like a regular revolver. The cylinder turns, it will cock, it will snap and fire. It's unable to fire any ammunition. It's used as a replica, it's made of metal, and it functions just like a single-action Army Colt, but it can't fire. I'll bring the next one, and then we'll compare them. Next gun, in the safe position. This is a Pieta revolver. This is the sister gun to the Baldwin gun. It's a .45 caliber single-action 1873 revolver, like was issued to Custer's troops. It is a true .45 long Colt. We call it just Colt. And it was designed for the U.S. Army to be able to kill a man and a horse. And it was the most popular firearm in Western movies.
Thank you, Mr. Kuski. If you could.
Now, may I show the two together?
Yes, if you will just show what, but not with testimony, but just showing them.
I'll reverse them.
Mr. Kuski, in your review as an expert in this case, are you aware whether there was a Denix revolver like that on set on Rust?
Yes, there is. It was covered in the invoices as rented by Rust Management.
Now, not demonstrating at this point, but can you tell the jury, based on what you just showed them on the Pieta, how you safely decock that firearm when you get it cocked?
You wished me to pick up the gun and show how it is decocked? I would prefer first showing on a Denix to them,
Yes.
and then on a live
Just
one.
show.
Your
Don't,
Honor, can I object? Can I approach?
Okay, Mr. Kuski, if you will, using the Denix, the replica, demonstrate that the cocking and proper decocking of that weapon.
Yes. This is one of the primary things that an individual must be trained in to safely cock and decock a Colt revolver or a replica. Now first, the finger has to stay off of the trigger and outside of the trigger guard, no matter what. That's the essential rule of safety. The firearm is cocked with your thumb, you see. Finger's still outside of the trigger. No one touches any trigger. This is now a gun capable of being fired. Now, the first thing I do here is put my thumb on top of it. If I'm not real strong, I put two thumbs on. Notice my finger is still completely off the trigger. I then slowly, gently pull the trigger and lower the hammer onto the cartridge. I then back it up to its safe position. Now I will demonstrate the same thing exactly with a real P8 revolver. Okay, we have P8 safely aimed. My finger is off the trigger. You can see this is where it has to stay. If your finger is in there, you can't decock safely. Now, again, we cock 1, 2, 3, 4. C-O-L-T, the clicks. This is a cocked, ready to fire revolver if it were loaded. My finger must stay out of the trigger guard and on the side. Now, I put my finger in, but I don't put it in until I put my thumb here. Even putting it in before, like that, would cause it to fire perhaps. Now, I'm holding the hammer back. I can feel the spring. Everything's safe. Now my finger goes on the trigger, pulls the trigger, slowly lowers to a safe position without snapping, and then pulls back to the safety notch, which removes the firing pin from the cartridge. Notice my finger's out of there again, not that the gun is cocked. And that's the only decocking. A guy doing this experience can do it with his thumb, because this is all knurled here so it can't slip. Finger's out of there. I decock safely.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for demonstrating that. And I wanted to ask you with regard to that operation. In this particular case, we're dealing with a movie set, obviously.
Yes.
Do the general rules of firearm safety, including the demonstration you just did, do they apply equally on movie sets?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, in your work as an expert in this case, reviewing all the information, did you agree with Mr. Haig's conclusion regarding violation of some of those safety rules?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now I want to ask you, I want to switch topics. I want to ask you about reloading. There's been some testimony about an inertia puller.
Yes.
And if you could tell the jury what an inertia puller is.
An inertia puller is basically a type of hammer that pulls bullets out of loaded cartridges when you have a misfire or you wish to disassemble old ammo. Basically, it has a plastic head about this big. It has a handle on it like a hammer that costs about $12. You put the cartridge, which could be any kind of cartridge, old dead cartridges, whatever you got, and you put it in, clamp it down with a little device, close the thing up. There'll be an empty space underneath, and there'll be a ring here holding the cartridge in metal, and you bang it on a table, and the bullet is pulled out. The bullet, remember, is the lead part, not the case. And the bullet will fall out. If there's powder, that will fall out as well. You then get a bullet, ka-ching. You have powder, which you can pour out, and you have a case, which may or may not be live primed, or maybe a good primer, maybe a rechargeable case, maybe anything that happens to be there.
Okay, so Mr. Kuski, if you wanted to reload a round, let's say you want to convert a dummy round to a live round, what are the steps in the reloading process?
Well, this is really extremely technically difficult, and the way it begins is you have to have, suppose it is a dummy. This is a beat up old piece of old brass that happens to have a dummy bullet in it. It has a dead primer in it. So what you start is you pop out the bullet. You see there's no powder. Now you turn over the case, put the bullet aside. The case is filthy. The case is all grody and nasty from sitting around. It has to go in a machine called a tumbler. Every reloader worth his salt has a tumbler. It's about this big. Sometimes it's a ball, sometimes it's a drum. It's filled with generally powdered walnut, and it's got a motor, and it spins and spins and spins as a polishing machine. And at the end of that time, you come out with brass that looks somewhat better than it started because it's knocked off some of the crud. You then wipe that down smooth. You then have to have a tool which is called a reloading press. I have a photograph, if you wish to see, of a reloading press. Would that be acceptable?
We can actually, if you can finish.
Well, let's go finish. You then have a reloading press. The reloading press, as one of its functions, is to get that old dead primer out. Remember, the primer's in the little hole in the bottom of the brass you're holding. This press has a big lever. It has a special pin designed for that cartridge to remove the primer, because if it went the other direction, you'd bang the cartridge up. But there's one more tool you must have, and that's called a shell carrier or a little shell holder. And that's sized exactly for the diameter of the rim of the cartridge you're going to take apart. So a 45 couldn't take a 380 or something like that. Has to be a 45. Slide in that so it holds it completely solid. Put this in your press, line it up over the top, and pull. And when you pull, that pin will drive out the primer. Ka-ching. Now you've got a case with no primer in it. It's shined up as best as your material can do. Now we get to the good part. You have to put a new primer in. First, you have to have a new primer, and they're very, very hard to get in much of the markets because they've been just grabbed up. So you take this tiny little primer, you put it in a tool called a priming tool. This may be part of your press, or it may be an independent machine. And this will hold the primer safely. Again, it has to be for your cartridge. You have to put that little shell holder in. You put the shell, which is empty, the empty case, slide it into the holder, pull the lever, and the primer, which is quite explosive, is pressed carefully flat up into the exact right position. And if you didn't have the shell holder in all the right gear, you couldn't do it. The primer would blow up the minute it was hit, but it's safe this way. Now you've got a case, and that case is starting to get to be a live case. It would be called a live case. It has a live primer, nice shiny case. You then put that in your press and go to the next stage. I have the press. You stick it in that ever-present shell holder again. It holds it perfectly, immaculately straight. You then have on your press something called a sizing die. And a sizing die costs about $55, fits in presses. You adjust that properly, which takes some skill, and you pull. The sizing die goes right over the top of the case and makes it the right size, because an old dummy isn't the right size. It'd jam up in your gun, wouldn't take a bullet, piece of junk. Once it's sized, there's a little ball inside, pulls it up, and that very neatly expands the top of the case. And without that expansion, you can't put a new bullet in. So now we've got a nice expanded case with a nice live primer in it. Looks pretty darn good. It's all sized to the right size. The mouth is expanded. Now you got to have a powder measure, and you have to have the right powder. You can't just use any old gunpowder. There are literally dozens and dozens. It has to be the acceptable powder for a 45 load and measured. You get too much, you blow up. Literally, blow up the gun, blow up in your face, and everybody knows about that. Put too little in, you get something called a squib, where it pushes the bullet into the barrel where it sticks. That's what killed Brandon Lee, was a stuck bullet. And now you've got the right amount of powder. Now to measure that powder, you need either a powder scoop of the right size, and they make dozens, so you'd say, okay, I want one for that powder, for that round. And you scoop it out. That's pretty fast. That's the old way. The new way is something like what I have, and these are computer-driven, perfect measures that will get within 1 grain of powder. And they're computer-driven trickle chargers. They cost about $300. They're real fancy. Put in the powder, put in the exact grains of weight that you want that powder to be, press the button, and a little tiny tray fills up, and you dump it into the cartridge through a little funnel. Now you've got powder, you got primer, you got a good case. You take your bullet and you put it on the top. But you need one more tool for your press, and that is a die that fits that bullet. And so you put in the die, everything's sitting there. You pull the big lever and puts pressure straight exactly down to push the bullet in exactly as deep as you want it to go. And after it's in there, the die that you've purchased which is another expensive toy, presses on the outside of the case and puts what's called a crimp on it. And that case now has the bullet seated on top of the powder, the exact correct depth, which you know through measurements and books, and it squeezed real tight. Otherwise, the bullet would just fall out. Or the first time you fired the gun, the bullet would just flop out on the other cartridges. It must be crimped tight.
So, Mr. Kuski, that is an enormous amount of steps, correct?
Yes.
And I appreciate the complete explanation, because would you agree that it's not sufficient to just have an inertia puller
No.
to accomplish all those steps? Okay.
It's useless.
Okay. And with all of that required for reloading, you've described the components of a live bullet. Are you also in agreement with the FBI that you cannot tell a live round from a dummy?
Yes.
With a picture?
In a picture, absolutely not.
Did you, I know in the course of your expert work, you were able to watch portions of the trial and pay attention. Did you see in any of the videos or any of the pictures any of this type of reloading equipment you've been talking about?
Well, I believe in Seth has a tumbler, I think I saw in the back, which is what you polish up brass with for reloading. I saw...
Protection Foundation. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm having an issue with my shoe. Pardon me.
Sir, let me ask you on a different topic with regard to the dangers of intermixing live and dummy ammunition. Can you tell the jury if those are stored in the same place, or is that potentially dangerous?
And I will object if we can approach, please.
Mr. Kuski, do you regularly, as a gun collector, gun owner, everything, do you regularly have interaction with different types of ammunition?
Yes, I do.
And does that include live ammunition and dummy ammunition?
Yes, it does.
And do you, with regard to the dummy ammunition, do you teach individuals proper gun safety?
Absolutely. I'm an NRA certified pistol instructor.
And as part of that, do you sometimes use dummy rounds in your teaching with them?
Yes, I do.
In that capacity, have you become familiar with various types of dummy ammunition?
Yes, I do.
And are you familiar with various types of live ammunition?
Yes, I am.
Do you store live ammunition, or do you have a place to store live ammunition yourself?
Yes, I do.
And do you have a place to store dummy ammunition yourself?
Yes, I do.
Are you familiar with whether there are any dangers of storing those together?
Absolutely.
And why would that be?
There are two sides of the danger. One easy to see, and that is if a live round somehow found its way in with look-alike dummy ammunition, you would have a very severe chance of having somebody getting killed. Now, the flip side is perhaps equally dangerous, though less visible. If I'm hunting Russian wild boar, which I hunt with a handgun in California, and I go to shoot at a Russian wild boar that weighs 325 pounds and it's coming right at me, and the gun goes click because I substituted a dummy, I will be the dead one. So yes, both sides are bad.
Absolutely. And with regard to your storage of ammunition, is it important to have an inventory system?
Yes, I have an inventory system for all my ammunition, all my powder, all of my reloading, which goes into dozens of different kinds of rounds.
And in the course of your reloading, did you become aware that in 2021 timeframe, was it difficult to purchase primers?
Yes, we called the great ammo shortage, and there was, for a variety of reasons, a huge run on ammunition. You couldn't get primers to reload. You know, they just didn't happen. You couldn't get them. You go to the store, couldn't get them. You couldn't get even 9mm ammo. You couldn't get almost anything. The store shelves were emptied out. People were hoarding powder. Even my long-range rifle stuff, I couldn't get powder. So yes, that's called the great ammo shortage, and to a certain extent it still goes on.
Now, during your course as an expert in this case, you heard Mr. Haig's testimony. Do you agree with his conclusion that the live rounds found on set were reloads?
Yeah, well, hand loads. A reload means that it's an old case reloaded. He was very...
Objection. Let's approach.
Mr. Kuski, is it your opinion that from your viewing them, that the live rounds on set were reloads or hand loads?
Yes, it is.
And would you explain what you saw, the quality, were they lower quality in your opinion?
Lower quality than what?
In terms of like a store-bought round from a major manufacturer or something like that, or do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I believe they were less consistent than that of a major manufacturer. Meaning, and I can expound on that if you wish.
Yes.
Okay. When you get...
I'm going to object again. Let's approach.
Okay, Mr. Kuski, so your opinion is that these are hand loads?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you understand also as an expert in reviewing the information in this case, there are a variety of different types of dummy rounds on set? There were a variety?
Yes.
Okay. And did that include some that rattled, some that did not rattle, and some with a hole in the side?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also review evidence in this case of Mr. Baldwin not only being dangerous at the time of the actual tragic shooting, but dangerous at other times on set?
Objection.
Okay, sir, my full question was going to be, did you see evidence that Mr. Baldwin was not safe with firearms after there was a yell of cut in a particular scene and he shot a blank after that scene?
Yes, I feel that's unsafe.
Okay. One further question. Are you familiar with the period weapon called a Henry rifle?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar whether if that is loaded or unloaded at the bottom of that rifle, whether somebody could see whether there was rounds at the bottom of it if they're just looking?
Yes, a Henry, may I go into
Yes.
detail? A Henry rifle is a predecessor to the Winchester. Mr. Henry actually invented the Winchester. It is a rifle with a very long barrel, doesn't have a handguard under, which was a problem. It's loaded from the top in a kind of a weird way, and the ammunition, the cartridges are dropped into a long tube where a spring pushes them down. One of the biggest disadvantages, and this was in the Civil War, is it has a long open side on it, beneath the barrel, where you can actually look in and see all the loaded cartridges. Now they thought that was a really good deal until they got in the mud of the trenches and the cartridges were all jammed. Right now, if you look at a Henry, anybody who knows anything about Henrys looks at that Henry and says the whole side's open and you can see ammunition in there, dummies, whatever. And if you don't have that, they're going to be laughing because it looks like an empty rifle.
Finally, sir, the last question I want to ask you, with regard to, there was some criticism in the trial, one point of Ms. Gutierrez-Reed holding a shotgun with it pointed in front of her. And is there, do you have an opinion on that with regard to, for example, military drill?
Yes, I do.
Objection.
I'm talking drill.
Sir, I'm going to, yet another objection, withdraw that question. And that's all the questions I have.
Cross-exam.
Mr. Kuski, do you agree with me that basic gun safety requires that the handler of the gun not point the gun at anyone?
If it's a real gun, yes.
Do you agree with me that while you were sitting here in the courtroom, you pulled out a gun and you pointed it at the judge?
I do not.
You disagree?
I pointed the gun into this space up here, never directly at the judge.
Do you agree that basic gun safety requires that you keep the muzzle of the gun pointed down for safety?
Not at all. A gun may be pointed, as any hunter education class like I taught, may be pointed up, may be pointed back, may be pointed cross arms, as in the military, may be pointed at the ground, may be put in something like a military stance, such as order arms with the butt on the ground and the piece right under your arm. So, no. And to further, in a cross draw or any of the...
No, I'm not talking about a cross draw, thank you. Do you agree that when you pulled that firearm out and pointed it in the direction of the judge, the deputy standing next to you had to intervene and grab the gun and point it down?
I want to object.
Mr. Kuski, have you ever been qualified as an expert in firearms safety in a court of law?
No.
Have you ever worked on criminal cases before?
Yes, I have.
Have all of the cases that the criminal cases that you've worked on, has Mr. Bowles been the attorney in all of them?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Give me a moment, please. Let me clarify my question. Have you worked on criminal cases related to the securities industry?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Other than, and you're an investment banker, correct?
Not exactly, but sufficient name for it.
Okay. And other than working on criminal cases having to do with securities, do you agree with me that the only other types of criminal cases you've worked on have all involved Mr. Bowles?
I do not.
Isn't it true, sir, that you provided a pretrial interview in this case on November 29th, 2023?
Yes, I did. Yes.
And isn't it true that during that interview, my investigator, Mr. Rice, asked you, is Mr. Bowles the only attorney that you've worked with? And your response was, outside of the securities industry in the past, yes.
Yes, and I have worked since then, and I have worked prior to that confidentially with cases before the United States Navy and other cases which were criminal, and I believed you were speaking only of what's going on here. If you'd like to hear the other ones, I'm very happy to tell you. I worked, for example, with the Monterey Sheriffs.
Is there a question?
No, there isn't. There is not a question on the table right now. You gave a lengthy description about how a person could turn a dummy round into a live round. You recall the testimony that you gave moments ago.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about doing the opposite, okay? I want to talk to you about taking a live round and turning it into a dummy round.
Okay.
Okay? Do you agree with me, sir, that the first step is you would place the live round in the inertia puller and smack it so that the projectile separates and the powder comes out?
Yes.
And at that point in time, you are left with an empty casing, a projectile, a pile of gunpowder. But the problem with your casing is that it still has a live primer, right?
That's right.
So in order to make the primer inert, you can take that empty shell casing with that live primer, you can put it into a firearm, and you can fire it.
Correct.
And now I've made the primer inert.
There is another way if you wish to hear.
No, I appreciate you, though. But
Thank you. Yes, I agree.
You agree that what I'm saying, it can be done.
Can be done.
And then after I've fired it and I've heard the pop, knowing that the primer has now been made inert, I can take that projectile and I can just put super glue on it and stick it back into that casing.
Well, you couldn't normally without expanding the case. That's what I was talking about when you do a sizer. You could expand the case with a sizer, because what's going to happen in many cases, and I can't say every one because I've never done super glue, is it's very difficult to get a bullet into a case that hasn't been expanded and sized. You could try it. I can't guarantee it'll work.
Sure, I mean, you can take the empty shell casing and you can put it on top of a projectile, and you can take your inertia puller or a hammer and just tap it down.
An inertia puller is made out of plastic. It is not for tapping anything down. But you could take a hammer, but what's very likely to happen is you'll bend the case beyond all use and recognition, and it can't fall in. That's why you expand cases in the process. You could try it. I've never beat in any bullets. Some bullets are very, very hard, some are soft. So it is possible with a soft lead bullet that you could maybe not bend your case and maybe not shave off your bullet. Possible.
And isn't it true, sir, that the live ammunition found on the set of Rust in fact had soft lead bullets?
I didn't measure the lead, so there's something called a...
Hang on. I appreciate your response. In fact, sir, you have never actually viewed the live rounds that are in evidence. You've only seen pictures of them, isn't that correct? So you haven't taken them and looked at them, right?
No, I've taken all the pictures and looked, that's it.
Okay, but you watched the testimony of our expert, Mr. Haig.
Yes, I did.
And isn't it true that Mr. Haig testified that the projectiles from the live rounds found on the set of Rust were soft lead?
I didn't hear soft, but lead certainly.
They weren't copper jacketed, correct?
No, not copper jacketed.
And he also testified that because they were lead, and lead is a soft metal, that's the reason that that projectile became so damaged when it went through Ms. Hutchins and into Mr. Souza.
Absolutely, that's called ballooning.
All right, thank you, sir. You testified on direct examination that you can't tell a live round from a dummy round in a photograph.
Simply in a photograph. I agree with Mr. Haig, who said the same thing.
Well, do you agree with me that you can tell a live round from a dummy round in a photograph if that dummy round has a hole drilled into the casing so it can't have any gunpowder?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir. And in your review of the case materials, sir, you understand that live ammunition from PDQ Props was sent to the FBI, and it was determined to be substantially different than the live rounds found on the set of Rust.
I do.
You gave an opinion earlier that you believe that the live rounds were hand loads.
Yes,
you recall
I do.
that?
Yes.
And I just want to be clear, You're giving that opinion just from looking at photographs, not from going to the evidence room, taking the evidence, handling it in the way that Mr. Haig did?
Yes,
All
and,
right.
and from Mr. Haig's testimony as well.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Your Honor, I don't have any follow-up questions.
This witness is excused. Thank you.
May you help me with these? To the case. And the next. And my hammer. And my
Counsel approach. All right, jury, we're going to finish for the day. You can expect closing arguments to commence tomorrow morning, not right away. The defense is still putting on their case, but when the defense is finished, then we will do closing arguments, and they anticipate that it will be sometime in the morning that we will get to closing arguments, okay? So please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Don't do any research or online Googling about the Rust production or this trial. Thank you. We'll see you at 8:30.
Hey everybody, Law and Crime's Jesse Weber here. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of the Rust trial of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. You know, this case makes me think about how people get hurt in all kinds of situations that should not happen.